Greetings. Come on in. Make yourself comfortable. A short my computer, so I've tried a different mic, and I'm wondering how this sounds. I've got a lapel mic now. This is going to be a little bit boring, guys, just in the first few minutes, just while I check this mic compared to two more. This is a lapel mic. You guys can hide that. This is the lapel mic. This is the lapel mic. This is the lapel mic. How does this level sound? Hey, Chad, thanks for coming in. Guys, sorry for the sound check here, but I want to see how the levels sound with this mic. Is my lapel mic, and it sounds like you guys can at least hear it. Okay. There you go. Sound isn't good. Okay, that's data. That is very good data. Just the regular laptop sound. Sorry for the sound check here, but see how the levels sound. Right now, we're talking about. This is the mic directly off the computer. Again, sorry about this, guys, with the mic situation, but I've developed a short in my mic, and I just am not quite ready to buy another one. Okay, so you guys can't hear this right now is what it sounds like. Maybe if I go here under preferences, yeah, this is the built-in mic is playing right now. And now it sounds someone's telling me something. Now it sounds way better. Okay, great. Great. So I've got two sounds goods. I've got 3, 4. Okay, great. Great. So if you guys are good with this, I won't bother with the 4th one. This is, with the other mic. Again, sorry about the mic check, y'all. I really appreciate this, so thanks. Laptop mic is way better. Thanks, Tyler. All right, great. So if I do a whole show this way, you guys will be fine. Unless, of course, it's just not entertaining. And then that's a whole other problem, isn't it? All right, cool. Thanks for being here. I'm getting ready to go live here on the camera too. Let's see here. All right. Welcome to the campfire. Right on. Welcome, Marcus. Glad you could join us. Any first timers here? Welcome. Any second or third or 17th timers here? Welcome back. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being here, guys. Happy Saturday. It's a nice rainy, cold day here. Got a nice, sweet little fire going. Now that I can see myself, I have to hide that. Don't know how you guys handle looking at that all day. All right. Welcome to Campfire. Welcome you all. Yes, it's good to see you guys. It's great to be here. Thank you for joining my stream. Fabulous. Fabulous. I'm glad that we're all have some energy here in the pot. It's a good pot. It is indeed. All right. Fabulous. No red pills, just water. No black pills, no blue pills, just water. Clean, crisp water. This live stream is brought to you by a tribe of patrons over at patreon.com. And if you look inside the description, you will see a nice little link over there. And we could use your help. We've got 70 freaking tribe members now, which is awesome. And we are looking for an eagle. We need We need at least one eagle before this year's up, and we need a few bears. Right now we've got wolves, which are awesome. That's exactly what I mean. That's our main stuff here. Here's a link in chat. Don't worry, guys. I'm not going to be giving you a bunch of commercials, but this is really sweet, man. The patron tribe is just 72 strong. We're making a movie. I'm just really excited about it. All of us are excited about it. We're having our first meetup this Friday. That's Black Friday. Instead of some of us participating in the Black Friday zombie apocalypse, we are participating in a recording of a black powder shoot. Colonial reenactors will be assembling on the birthplace of Davy Crockett, which is actually close to my house. It's like an hour and a half away from me. And they are doing a black powder shoot. This is a contest. The guys that are competing in this are taking it very seriously, as from what we've been told. And I got to give a shout out to my to my brother Brent. If Brent's in the house, Brent's been helping us put this together, calling them, getting permission to film, setting up the campsite, talking to the ranger over there. Going to get a permit. It turns out the government wants you to have a permit to film inside public forest. Which is a whole other topic, but bless you, Brent, for taking that on. If anyone wants to join us on Friday, I can't recommend it enough. It'll be a great time. If you can't make it Friday, but maybe you want to come up Saturday, hit me up because I think we might still be there. Friday day at noon is the black powder shoot, and Saturday we're thinking we'll still have a campfire. We'll be getting some audio, doing a sort of a gathering like this, but in real person. Plus there's a fort. There's an old fort in Elizabethton that we can go to and look at filming some other things. Beautiful river there, right on Elizabethton River. In fact, they just did a reenactment, which I was at. I got some video for that too. But they just did a reenactment where they were crossing that river in traditional garb. So really, really, really cool stuff. I think as more of us join this endeavor, more of us will find these other reenactment events, and we will be able to get even more footage, even more audio. I have posted a link for that meetup in the chat. You guys want to check it out? Again, it's Friday. It's free for all. The event itself charges a $10 admission fee, but our tribe is obviously everyone's welcome. If you haven't joined Patreon yet and you want to come, please come check it out. Get a feel for the vibe. We are making a movie. Think of this movie as like, so sometimes I'll make a tweet, you'll make a tweet, you'll make a post, you'll write a story, I'll write a story. This is basically a tweet with a shitload of prana, like poured into it. It's a movie, wheat. It's going to be this burstable. If you're familiar with my writing, you know that I'm way into this kind of burstable, like photon cannon of truth. And I want this movie to feel the same way. It's going to be real, just bam, in your face kind of stuff. And the leaner and meaner we can make it, the more it's going to get seen. It's basically going to be a living injection straight into the zeitgeist. You could think of it like we've pulled out a lightsaber and we're just shoving it right up the taint of evil and saying, no, we believe in sovereignty. We believe in decentralization. We believe in localism. We believe in voluntarism. That's what this film's going to be about. So far, we've already got 3 cameramen that are showing up. Some are patrons, some aren't yet, but they're thinking about it. There's going to be room for everybody. Some of you have expressed interest in other things, and I just haven't gotten back to you yet. Please know that is coming. Thank you. As far as like Indian law, historical references, costumes, all that stuff. Real quick, it's a 3-act play. The movie is going to be 3 acts. Act 1 is what America was like before we erased the history with Christopher Columbus. Christopher Columbus did not discover America, he erased America. And when I say he, I mean we've used him as an eraser in our history books. By us saying he discovered America, what you're really doing is deleting all the history that came before him. It's a very, very important task that honestly the Jesuits pulled on us to make it seem as if Christopher Columbus invented America. By doing that, he erased the 500-year history that we've documented. It certainly goes more than that, back to the Iroquois Confederacy. As early as 1450, there was an eclipse in America recorded by most indigenous tribes. And from that time on, we have some pretty good records proving that Christopher Columbus did not discover America. No, he erased America. And from that moment on, the real name of our land, the real name of the soil, was replaced with the crown name. And even though some of those names might still hearken to certain Native American traditions, the original name is gone. And it becomes all of our duty. As we tap into our ancestors, we're tapping into our past. When we tap into our past, we're pulling prana and power up from there. Because it's a two-way street with prana, that means we're laying a root down into the soil. And those roots, the deeper we go, the harder it's going to be for them to insert the machine. Migration is the key to cutting your roots off. The more they can make you migrate, the more they can make you forget your history. Amnesia is a side effect of migration. In fact, if you hearken back to Australian culture, the Aborigines would travel, but couldn't travel too fast. They were having to wait for their essence to catch up. This is the living memory of their ancestors. And if they forget that key, they no longer have that rhythm, that ribbon, that etheric cord connecting them back to their roots. For those of you who checked out my last live stream about bone technology, wow, we really uncovered some cool stuff. I think all of these references in the Bible, at least 50, about how we must forget their memory by desecrating the altar with bones. We must crush these bones and spread them. We must remove the spirit of these bones, or we must not break these bones. The bones of these things must be preserved in such a way to echo through. There is a giant technology hidden in bones. And it's funny that I said giant technology because in addition to that, we are uncovering more and more every day how all these giants are with us, but we've been deleting that history. We've been covering that up. The Smithsonian is an organization that buries history. They do not preserve it. The UNESCO is probably the closest you can get from looking at what the real government looks like, is looking at UNESCO. You have an international cartel of archaeologists that are stealing and covering up what's really happened all around us. And we can use that as a powerful cipher, powerful divining technique to determine our own history. The fact that they're covering up giants really gives you a clue that there's something very important about them that gives us an idea about our own past. Until we can cut through the amnesia, until we can stop buying into kind of bullshit stories about an ancient star 700 million trillion light years away, when we come back to the earth, when we come back to the soil, when we look beneath the concrete, when we stick our toes back in the dirt that's been covered over for so long, like a callus, we instantly tap back into that hard drive. We instantly recover all that memory, literally in an instant. This is the power of prana. It's the power of touch. You guys encourage the same thing. Someone tells something to you, you get chills, you feel it. There's a circuit that that's complete. The circuit is so important. And that's what we're doing with this movie. We're reminding people how important it is to tap in. Because when you were tapped into your roots, when you were tapped into your ancestors, you are thousands of times more powerful than a migrant that's left their home to try and come to another home and try and make roots again. They're not even going to try and make roots, are they? Most of the time, they're just, well, I'm just going to be here for 20 years. And then magically something else will happen. During that entire time, they are dust in the wind. They're not able to tap into the soil in the same powerful way. This is how you geld someone. You erase their ability to even remember who they are. When you can't remember who you are, you can't tap into your ancestors and you can't pull that power up. Keep in mind that when I say ancestors, I'm also meaning the 7-year-old inside you, the 12-year-old inside you, the 18-year-old inside you, the 4-year-old inside you. Those are all your ancestors. And when you somatically remember what that felt like when you were young, you're pouring a root down to that 5-year-old, and you guys are exchanging information. You're exchanging empathy. And that 5-year-old can hear you so well right now. Even after all this long time, he can hear you and say, "Thank you, my brother. Thank you, my sister. Thank you." They see you in the future, nodding to them in the past. And just as you can do that, I want you to think right now about your future generations, about the future ancestors. Picture them tapping back into you. Pour them a pocket right now of prana. Pour them a bubble of goodness inside the soil where when they touch their root to it, oh, it's going to be, whoa, this is some juicy stuff. You can do that by massive intention. Revering this. This is what reverence is all about. When you're giving your reverence to something, you're sort of exhaling prana into this bowl, into this dish, and you're stirring it up and you're charging it. We give that same reference to DC. We give that same reverence to our parents. We give that same reverence to our boss, to our government, to our plants, to our loved ones, to our children. Reverence is the most important fuel that you have. It's this technology of belief that I talk a lot about. In fact, my good buddy Joe has posted a couple times the dangers of belief, saying that there is knowledge and then there is belief, and the belief is the danger of knowledge. And while that is very true in what we've been told in the past, I think it's important that we understand that the true meaning of belief has been covered up and has been destroyed. First of all, if we're going to have, if I had to check on chat, make sure you guys could hear me okay. If we're going to have a level where we're calling it knowing, we're already lying to ourselves. So let's pretend that belief really does mean, let's pretend that belief really is less than knowledge for just a moment. Now, I know that's what you guys have heard your whole life, so I'm sort of asking you to turn off that reality for a second. Just try this on, okay? You've got, oh, I believe something's true, and then I know something's true. That's how we've been taught in the past, that there's a stair step, and you get from belief to know. But something really important happens when you do this. It's bad. Let me tell you why. If you think that there's a level below belief, and then you think that there's a level of knowing, and you're convinced that that's how it works, you are putting knowing on a pedestal automatically. You are putting belief on a scapegoat automatically. You are actually assuming that the things that you actually know. So let's put belief aside for a sec. Let's just look at that. If you're going to pretend that you can know something, I'm going to tell you, I don't think you can. Unless you directly experience something, that's really the only way you can know something. And because it's based on direct experience, it's important to realize that your experience of something could change. So you could know something and only discover the next day that you didn't know what you thought you knew about something, which really does put it back in that category of not having a stabilized, petrified, congealed form of belief that we're calling knowing now. What we have is a confidence in our simulation. That's what we have. To know something is to be confident in your simulation of what it truly is. But all this confidence could be shaken at any point in time. You know this because in 1969, we were confident. We knew that our government landed on the moon. On 9/11, we knew that a plane hit the World Trade Center. So keep in mind that you really don't know anything. However, you have something that no one else can give you or compete with, and that is your direct experience. When you apply your direct experience to something, you are more than knowing it. You are cohabitating with it. And when you do that, you firmly have a grasp over what it is, but only in relation to your vista, your fractal. Truth is a fractal. I've said this before, but each of us have a vista on that fractal. That's why it looks different, but we still do have a universal truth. Meanwhile, we've subjugated belief and said, well, belief really is something that you're confident that you know, but you really don't. But you actually don't know that you don't know that until after the fact. So you can't walk around with that definition and pretend like it's even something tangible. Let's look at what belief really is, okay? Let's put knowledge aside for a second and let's just look at what belief truly is. When you start to believe something, you're creating a nest in the ether for an idea to exist. The wizard John Dee, 007, Queen Elizabeth's main numerologist and court magician, he had a belief that if he looked into an obsidian screen, he could divine the future. He could see things. He could contact demons and spirits that would tell him things. That he could mesmerize the entire world with this obsidian screen. He believed that before anyone else did. He had an initial belief about the power of this obsidian object, this black mirrored screen. Back then, he took that belief when no one else did, when he had no knowledge of it, when there was no knowing that it existed. And he just kept on. And he said, I believe there's a great, immense, huge power inside of black obsidian. And he may not have even understood just how that power should work, how it could work, what the full potential of it was. But he began with a sacred nest of belief, a ritual circle in the ether. And he chose to surround that around a piece of black obsidian that he found. He charged it with his own belief. He charged it with his own prana. He was able to divine and pull things out of it that he felt were divinely inspired or were even demonically inspired, the old definition of the word demon. Had he not thought that the black obsidian would have power, had he not first initially placed that prana into that basket, you and I, right now, would probably not be talking on a black obsidian screen. The black mirror that we have right now, that we're communicating with, is that scrying device. It's his belief that's been picked up by others, and it's been believed even harder. It's been believed even more. Think about how weapons are belief. The idea that I can kill you from far away is a projectile belief. It's the idea that I would like to stab you, but you're across the room from me. I would therefore learn to throw my dagger at you. As the people had the belief in stabbing from far away, it's only because they had this belief that slowly different magic started to develop out of this cloud of belief. And what was the first piece of magic we saw but the arrow? What was the second piece but the crossbow bolt? All of these things, wizards kept pouring their belief into them. They would get better arrowheads, they get better quills, they get better shafts. They turned into bullets. The bullets turned into exploding shells. The shells turned into torpedoes or air missiles. The air missiles turned into AI guidance systems. The AI guidance systems turned into fire bombs capable of destroying entire cities. The Moab came from this. The drones that you see now, all extended from the magical prana placed a long time ago in one guy who said, I have a dagger and there's an asshole over there and I would like to stab him with it, but I don't feel like walking. That is a belief that's been nurtured over time, and it had nothing to do with facts, nor did it have anything to do with knowledge or knowing. It was a pranic force that he was pouring in to something that developed. But oh no, it's not all just about violence, my friends. For a mother, when she has a child, the very first time that fetus, that baby is starting to develop, the consciousness starts to grow, the very first thing it does is it's now inside a womb of belief that the mother's giving it. You could say that because of all that belief that she's pouring into it, that's how her genes are being inceptioned into the infant's genes, and that her child becomes her child simply because it's a collection of her belief. She has a biological ritual circle inside her womb, and she's constantly pouring every breath of her belief into it. The result of that is the stargate opens, a consciousness emerges, and it grows into her idea of what the belief is, whether it be a daughter or a son or twins or whatever else you're going to throw at it. When that child's born, it now has the same genetic tree as she did. Why? Because of that pranic belief, because of that notion. It doesn't have someone else's DNA, it has hers. Belief is it's a faucet. And all of us have this faucet. And whether you like it or not, we're leaking belief 24 hours a day. It's pouring out of us anyway. Some of us have gotten good enough at redirecting this hose where we can point it in the direction that we want. I am here to help explain that 40% of your belief is being poured into the gutter of government. But we can do something better with that. We can pour that on our own roots. We can establish our own sovereignty. We can own the land, the air, and the militia again. We can be the living soil, and we can be the exact expression of our own belief versus someone who's outside of ourselves. Keep in mind what happens with government is we're literally paying them to stop people. We're literally giving them our money to stop people from taking our money. That's ultimately, if you look at what government is, that's what it is. It's us giving people money to prevent others from taking that money that they just took. Why does it work? Because from a long time ago, we were given a belief. We were sat down at a desk, a bell rang, we were given a belief in a pop quiz, and we were rewarded with serotonin, with drops of dopamine, by answering the quiz correctly. And we were told the story of democracy, and we were told the story of Christopher Columbus. And in both these things, what was really happening underneath was erased. It was gone. It was obliterated with a new story. And that's what our patron move is about too, guys. It really is reinvigorating the power of self and the power of sovereignty. Just on my legs here. Also, I think I need to put something on the fire. Let's see if that darts up. All right. Everybody doing okay? Sounds still good, probably, right? Yep, Shakedown by Gangsters, right. All right. So I actually have topics tonight. I haven't even started on them yet. But yeah, I have topics tonight. So I kind of told you about, actually, I guess I kind of covered some of them. The invention of TV really did stem from the belief in mind control. The invention of the TV really was a spell of, hey, I think I can use this black obsidian to lock someone inside a spell where they'll just remain motionless. Or I can give it cues. I can give it orders from the screen. And it's like, no, that's a crazy belief. That'll never work, John D. No way that'll ever happen. And look at what's happening with our culture. And I love my mom, but she trusts Oprah more than me. That really does show you how the obsidian works. That just shows you just how powerful it is, man. It's more powerful than family right now. It's crazy, right? It's crazy. So consider this new definition of belief, because just like Columbus erased history, if you're going to believe that belief is simply a lesser form of knowing, you're missing all the prana. You're missing all that good juice. And that's why I sometimes lecture you guys and say, no, man, hating's the same as loving. It's because if you look at the shadow of the prana as it leaves your body, it's exactly the same. Belief. If you believe you hate someone, if you believe you love them, it's the amount that you feel that's going to determine how much prana leaves. It's a collection of prana. Why do you think Trump is so successful, but still so polarizing? Because he's pulling everyone's prana in at the same time. You guys, there's no way this political drama would work if we have 3 parties or 4. You guys have probably seen a wrestling match sometimes where they try and have 3 or 4 opponents. It never works. It's just a brawl. No one pays attention anymore. The attention is the crucial part. That's all they want. Trump doesn't need your vote. He needs your attention. It's true. DC wants your attention more than they want your vote. Speaking of which, I've had a busy week. Checking my fire there. It's starting. I've had a busy week of making it expensive to lie. This is a new endeavor I started a few weeks ago. It definitely burns some of my own reputation points, but I'm trying to find that subtle mix where you could still lay the roadside bomb for one of these snake oil salesmen to at least step in it. At least remind them once again, dude, you're not going to pull that shit on me anymore. It's not going to happen. And that really is our duty, I think, right now when it comes to, I'm not asking you to try and convert anyone. In fact, I don't think that's going to work. I think this movie is going to work a lot better for that. We'll talk about fashion hopefully in a second, because we're going to actually be tapping into the magic of fashion on this movie. But instead of us trying to change their mind, what we have to do is simply just make it more expensive to hold that. If someone wants to hold the idea that the Long Ranger is going to save us, all you have to do is just remind them, is that what you're going to tell your grandkids if it doesn't work out? Is that's your plan, to tell them, well, you were really, really hoping this Long Ranger thing was going to pan out. You know, I want to remind you guys that this has been happening our whole lives. Every president's been a tool. And not once have we ever voted a president in and thought from day one, oh, this guy's a tool. Everyone thinks, oh, he's going to freaking change it. He's going to change it this time. And because we have the short-term memory, like a sitcom, because the obsidian has planted us in such a short way, we think that every new Messiah is a new Messiah. We think because they're being presented as a Messiah, that at least one of them is going to have to be one. That's what we're expecting. It really is expecting. It's go to a professional wrestling match and see if you can find a wrestler to take to the Olympics and compete. That's what you're doing in DC. You're hoping to find a real, legitimate wrestler that could go to the Olympics and even understand how the rules work. That's how different it is. That's how lost we are by looking at this mess. It's the reason why, and don't feel bad for looking at the mess. You get sucked in. It's so hard to doubt it because of everyone's prana. Everyone is so convinced it's real that it's very hard for you to imagine that it's not. This is the power of mass effect. This is the power of the camera. The Hollywood camera is a powerful, powerful device because of its ability to focus. When it focuses in on something, it's causing all the prana in the room that's not being focused in on to go to that vortex. And by doing that, you now have thousands of people, all of their energy dumping in the same way. It creates literally a black hole inside the groupthink that sucks you in. It becomes much more comfortable to be around that whirlpool. Excuse me, majority rules in this case when it comes to prana. But don't forget, when you're sovereign, when you're tapping your roots down, your influence like skyrockets. You become thousands of times more influential than the migrant, so to speak. Think about a lot of people that are running on hope as being migrants. They are migrants for their own belief because they're not able to put their own roots down in their own soil, in their own home and say, I don't fucking want this. I don't want a federal government. I don't think that we're in danger of anyone invading our soil. So why the fuck are we supporting this? You are going to be thousands of times more powerful than the person who's hanging on the hope, on the thread that someone's going to get in and fix something that is working perfectly. A system that is designed from the ground up to be exactly the way you see it today. DC is not broken, my friends. There is nothing broken about DC at all. Next topic. Oh, I meant to set this up. I wonder if I can do this. Sorry, guys. I meant to do this first. This will just take me a sec. I want to just remind us of what it's like. This will be interesting. Since we've been talking, there. Every 4 minutes, another country falls. I'm doing 4 minutes because we don't have, I can't stream you guys for the length of time since we've been in World War II. I feel like some of you guys would probably leave. One of us would have to go to the bathroom. So we're going to change it from every 1.29 years to every 4 years. I mean, every 4 minutes. Because every 1.29 years, America invades or bombs another country. And because they move so slow, it really becomes very difficult to track and to keep that in mind. It's the exact same thing that happens with the presidents. As long as every 8 years you're getting a new one, it becomes very difficult to really take the time to look back at all of them and go, wow, they've all been utter failures. They've all been utter tools. Why would something different happen now? Like, is that logical or even safe to consider as a possibility? So the first country since World War II was China. Believe it or not, we invaded and bombed China between 1949 and early 1960s. That was after peace broke out. After peace, quote, quote, peace broke out. Some of you probably think that the Nazis lost the war, and some of you probably think that it was the Nazis that were sort of like the bad guys. And it's really twisted, but as you start to really uncover the truth, you'll see that underneath the bad guys was a Geppetto, a puppeteer. And the bad guys and the good guys actually were the same conglomerate. It's no different than saying, well, there's the Republicans and the Democrats now. It's just on a larger scale. World War II was a wiping clear of bones. It was a cutting off of ancestral roots across Europe. Germany was having a revival in, well, honestly, the fatherland. They were tapping into their own roots. And the people that run the world could not have that. That was not acceptable at all to them. This was a worldwide takeover, which means you have to destroy the history. You have to destroy the connection of roots. And you have to install trauma where it's deep enough where no one will even consider trying to stand up again. That's how you take over the world. And World War II was exactly that. So once World War II happened, really that was the beginning of what we're seeing. But they slowed down the war long enough to where most of us just simply can't see it or can safely sort of ignore what's happening around us. That's why people are going to get mad at you when you tell them the truth. You're reminding them the truth of what we have, and that is unacceptable to them. Slavery is a comfort food. Yeah, you pretend like it's oppression. Oh, I don't want to be enslaved. But the very next morning, they will tell you just how badly they want to be enslaved. They want it really bad. They'll find it threatening to talk about anything else. I think that's why I'm having so much trouble changing the subject here. If you try and bring up a different idea for government, man, it's like crickets. And it's kind of painful because you're hearing that from people that are apparently telling you how shitty government is. And here I am giving a solution for it. And it's being ignored. Oh, shoot. Did you look at that? Man. So we just invaded Albania in 1949 through 1953. America was bombing Albania after World War II, even though we had peace, even though there was no declaration of war, we were still bombing them. You know, we're supposed to have an active war in Congress. Congress is supposed to vote for war. Congress doesn't want that right. They want the president to have that. And because of that, we as individual people no longer have the choice over when we do or do not go into war. That's why I'm saying over and over again, this is not our government. It's not. The government would have protected us on 9/11. The government would have, well, did you know that all planes in 2000, all commercial aircraft, I'm about to sneeze. I'm about to sneeze. All planes in 2000 had equipped with them the remote control from the ground. Anyone with access to the right call signature in the military and at Boeing could land a plane that had been hijacked via radio. Every plane had that ability. I want to point out to you that there were 2 failures. Not only are we told that 18 box cutters infiltrated the most advanced military ever assembled in our known history, but that they were allowed to then drive them into the World Trade Center and kill 3,000 people. I'm really pissed right now at people that are cheering for Tulsi Gabbard. And why I'm pissed is because Tulsi's wanting us to look at Saudi Arabia. She's like, oh, the truth of 9/11 is in Saudi Arabia. And people are like, go, Tulsi, go. You go get that Saudi Arabia. You tell them what the truth is. Thank goodness Tulsi's here to tell us the truth about 9/11 in Saudi Arabia. Guys. You're never, ever going to find the truth in Saudi Arabia. And you're never, ever going to find the truth in Iran. You're never, ever going to find the truth in Iraq. You're never, ever going to find the truth in Afghanistan. JFK was New World Order version 1.0. The ringing, you could call that the ringing of the trauma bell. And when that bell was rang, New World Order 1.0 had been installed. In fact, Bush even announced that on September 11th, by the way, was when he gave that speech about New World Order. Speaking of ringing, I've got a super chat from Laura Richard. Thank you, Laura. Thank you. All our super chats are going to the Patreon fund, by the way. So anyone else wants to give you, hook us up, man. It'd be great. Thanks, Laura. So that ringing was 1.0. 9/11 was New World Order 2.0. And now, thanks to Tulsi's help, Greater Israel will be 3.0. If some of you guys are maybe confused about Greater Israel or don't know what I mean, there's a biblical passage that describes that Israel will again be reunited from the Euphrates River to another river. Oh my goodness, guys. Did you look at that? You just invaded another country. As we were talking, we went back into East Germany. What do you know? In 1950s, America decided that they weren't done, and we went back into East Germany and bombed them some more. See how slow it works? You see how we're able to change the subject and kind of just keep moving on? But meanwhile, this slow-moving beast is happening behind us. This is what's happening to us on a grander scale in our country. This is why every new president will come in and say, I believe we should invigorate our military, which is 400 times larger than any other military, I think, combined. It's like so much bigger. But we're still saying every time we must invigorate our military. We must make it stronger to protect you, the citizen. Again, all of our pranas pouring into this. That prana's worth something. It's being turned into a lot of arsenal. Excuse me, a lot of ordnance. You know, in my opinion, I think before we can start any more wars, we have to go back to South Korea and ask North Korea if we can come in and remove all of our landmines. This would include the former country of Taos. I think it's Burma now, right? And then actually it used to be Burma, it's something else now. Cambodia, Korea. I think that if we were truly the good guys, we would be saying, hey, we would like to come get those landmines out for you, because otherwise we've planted explosives for your civilians to just come on and step on. We would like to feel better about ourselves, and that would make us feel better, is if we could come in and please undo that. America is not the good guys. America is not fighting against the New World Order. This myth that we have that, oh, well, because we're into nationalism now, that means that we're not into the New World Order is total bullshit, guys. Look at 9/11. You know exactly. The military wasn't helping us. It didn't help any of the passengers on the plane. It didn't help anyone inside the World Trade Center. The military was serving its master. Tulsi Gabbard is telling them, keep serving your master. It is completely irresponsible to look at Saudi Arabia or Iran. Our people did that. There are people inside our government. There's no way that that could have happened without our own help, without our internal help. And you know what? Saudi Arabia never promised us. Saudi Arabia never said, hey, if you give us our taxes and your children and your blood, we're going to protect you. Nor did they say, hey, we promise to never, ever come in and attack you. We're setting up this paradigm, though, where we're only going to go attack things that are outside of ourselves. That's what an anarch does. That's what a malignant narcissist does. They look outside themselves for the problem. They project their own evil into the outside world. You guys know how this works. And then they attack that. Sovereign people don't want to support narcissism. Hope fags want to support narcissism. Zionist zealots want to support narcissism. This myth that there's a chosen people, and that these chosen people are going to have their chosen be born and ordained by God as the next chosen one, as the true Messiah. And when that chosen of the chosen people comes, he's going to tell the world that anyone who is not chosen is now the slave of the first chosen people. I'm not kidding. That's legitimately in the book. Sorry, we just invaded another country again. Who was it this time? Oh, Iran, 1953. We decided, fuck them. Let's go get them. Got to spread that freedom, right? See how slow it is? See how easy it is to forget, to stop looking and understand the footprints? Boom, boom, boom. These are footprints of a pretty big ass monster. It's awful. It's awful. And Greater Israel, man, this thing's been planned for a while, like a long, long time. Let me see if I can find you a picture so you guys know what I'm talking about. Greater Israel. Let's see. I bet if I just do greater. Ah, come on. There it is. There it is. Here's Greater Israel. Notice the countries. Notice it cuts through Iraq, cuts through Syria, cuts through Egypt, Saudi Arabia. That's Greater Israel. Some of you guys don't know my prediction, which is that the New World Order will come about from the Whore of Babylon. the Whore of Babylon is going to be a witch burning, probably Hillary Clinton, but if plans don't go as well, they'll simply just reunite another one, very much like Kushner is the Mashiach right now. It doesn't have to be the final one, but this is their draft pick for these roles. See, archetypes have draft picks, and different owners are going to put their men or their players inside those draft picks. This is very similar to gladiator training, gladiator promoters. The gladiators would come into town with their candidate and barter as much as they could to put on a good show. During the match, you're what you're seeing is a death match, and you assume that everyone hates everyone, but actually the promoters backstage are both getting paid pretty nicely. And the blood that you see spilling is just a natural function of what they do. That's why when you see Giuliani right now saying, "Oh, we've uncovered the largest democratic Ukrainian connection ever, the most evil thing you've ever imagined." So you really have to look at that and go, asshole, 9/11 was an inside job. And you fucking can't say it. And neither can Tulsi. And neither can Thomas Drake, the first NSA whistleblower. Neither can Edward Snowden. Neither can Julian Assange. Neither can Bradley Manning. Neither can Trump. Nobody is going to tell you in DC that 9/11 is an inside job. And some of you are trying to sneak by saying, James, you don't understand. You got to go in there and you got to sneak. And you got to play it low for a while. And you got to build your profile. And then after re-election, once you get some clout, then you can pull the sheet off. And I'm telling you, that's bullshit. I'm telling you that on day one, after Tulsi's election, she could grab the next live hot mic she has and say, 9/11 was an inside job. And I've never been more ashamed of my military for failing our country like this. And she could be fired that day. She could be censored out of the Senate. She could be laughed out of Washington. She could even be killed. And she'd still win. She'd still win. You know why? Because she'd stop the machine. She'd stop this 4-minute machine that, as we've been talking, just invaded Guatemala in 1954. Guatemala. Why the fuck were we invading Guatemala in 1954, people? You think it's because of our freedom? It's because we had to protect ourselves from the evil Nazis? Or the evil communists? Or the evil Islam, Muslims, whatever it is we're going to say next? If Tulsi wanted to be a hero, she could go in and one day say 9/11 was an inside job. And even if she got fired, she'd be winning. She would have won. And I guarantee you, if she would have done that the next day, if DC was real, Tulsi would say that. And the next day, Jim Jordan would say it. And the day after that, Giuliani would say it. And then a coalition of senators would come out and say, we've been working on this the whole time. We've been working on this the whole time. And hopefully by then it'd be too late. Hopefully by then, by the dawn's early light, Washington, D.C. would literally be smoldering. In one night, all of that belief would be pulled right out from underneath their ass. And they'd all be stuck on a small swamp-ash piece of shit land called the District of Columbia that probably had a black magic ritual spell underneath. Some kind of catacombs under there, just like Paris, just like the Vatican. Some displaced bones are under there. And all those fuckwads would be stuck on that island. And we'd have our own little island, our own little Fletcher Memorial, home for incurable tyrants and kings. And for the first time, the entire world would see that America's a badass country again. that America's not afraid to look at their own shit and go, no more narcs here. We're responsible for what we do. We don't want a new world order 3.0. And all you guys pushing sovereignty, you know that. I know I'm pushing the choir. But feel this. Feel the power of your belief. Feel the power of your roots. And stop letting people settle. There are people out there that are settling, that are telling you, no, Tulsi's our gal. And I'm telling you guys, a lot of you are on the right who follow me, sort of on the right. Yeah, I mean that loosely, not disrespectfully. I mean, you're gonna enter the cathedral one way or another, right? You're gonna enter this belief tent, this mosque, whatever, one way or the other. And a lot of you came in from the right. And so I want to ask you, please try and show some empathy and realize that when Barack Obama was in office, these people were convinced that they were getting free healthcare. And that was their lighthouse to tell them that they were winning. And even though every 4 minutes, Barack Obama was invading another country, bombing another sovereign nation, they didn't care because they believed that they were winning. They were pouring their prana into a vessel and saying, here, Barack, here, have our prana. Have it. We'd rather you have it than us have to spend it on each other. We'd rather you take it. You're in charge of our health, not us. And if that seems naive and silly to you, watch what's happening right now. We lost the First Amendment in Florida in May. Excuse me. Just invaded another country. Who did we get? Costa Rica. We're like, fuck Guatemala. We're going to Costa Rica. Mid-1950s, we were in Costa Rica, bombing and fucking with shit. America. Because it moves so slow, you're able to move on with your life. You're able to find the next sitcom, the next 20-minute soundbite that we're going to get. Epstein didn't kill himself. Someone had an affair. Someone had a blue cigar and a dress. You're never going to find an Olympic-style wrestler in DC. You're going to find a professional wrestler. They're a different kind of sport altogether. Totally different. So on that, I want to say that Let Your Dragon, thank you, sir. Thank you. I just woke my dog up. Good job, Wiley. Appreciate it. On that note, I want to say that you are the only person out there that can make it expensive for others to lie to you. The media is not going to do it. Our thought leaders aren't going to do it. Hell, we've got Q leaders right now that are telling you how much freaking winning we're doing. You've got Hollywood crushers that are literally tearing down Hollywood, propping it back up again so they can tear it down again so they can prop it back up again. They can't say the word Zionism. They can't say the word Sabbatean Jew. They're making up these crazy terms like, oh, it's the Luciferians. And I'm calling that crazy because how many of you have met a Luciferian? Where is this church of Luciferian that we're talking about? Because we're told Luciferians worship the devil. And I'm here to tell you right now, Luciferians do not worship the devil. They're picking Luciferians because they don't want to tell you the truth about Hollywood. They don't want to tell you who runs the fucking media. Why? Because they can't afford it. They don't have enough egoic shield to spend that reputation. It's not worth it to them to lose that reputation. The truth is too expensive. I'd rather peddle snake oil. I'd rather picturing this red boogie monster with a tail, a Krampus kind of figure. When meanwhile, there are psychopaths running amok right now. And some of them we're giving our prana to. And when some of you guys see me get pissed on Twitter, that's why I get pissed. Because there's so many freaking liars out there. So many liars. They're everywhere. That's why I'm telling you, experience is the only truth you're going to have. And we need to reset our world. You can reset our world to literally dismiss things that we cannot experience. And you can do that kindly. You can look at that story and the person pushing it and saying, you know what? I'm not able to even directly experience that anyway. So I don't even know if it's true. I don't know if the sources are true. You don't know if the sources are true. And all you're doing is sucking my prana out of my localized world, out of my own being. You know, oh, sorry, we just invaded another country. Let's see. Who do we invade? Syria. Fuck them. 1956, 1957. We decided to go into Syria. Fuck them, right? America. We are the New World Order. And just because we're moving slow doesn't make it okay. It's actually not slow at all. It's really, really fast. I'm not going to play that Wesley Clark clip again like I did last time, but you guys know what I'm talking about. You guys know what's happening. Yeah, it's definitely not all Jews. Definitely not. It's not even Jews, Scott. It's not even Jews. What you're looking, and I wrote about this in my book. Hey, I wrote a book called The Technology of Belief. I'm sold out. All I have is this author copy. I mean, more on the way, but what I mean is I can't hold up a real book. This is an author proof here. In The Technology of Belief, I trace this stuff so you don't have to. I read Mein Kampf so you don't have to. You don't want to read that. I mean, you can, but I don't recommend it. Reading about World War II is dark and dank and gross, and it feels awful. But once you know the truth, then you understand what's happening. Then you've got an insight into how this movement works. And right now, we're looking at an avatar called Zionism. And behind that avatar is a much larger Leviathan that frankly cannot fit into one costume. We poke names at it. We try and call it different things. Luciferian is one. Satanist is another. Psychopath is another. I like psychopath personally because it really does capture exactly what they are. It's too big of a Leviathan to put it in one costume. I use the analogy a lot that the spider's so big we can't even comprehend its belly. It's just too large. And really that's what it's about. It's so intimidating to see. It takes your breath away. Your polyvagus nerve constricts around every organ and you're like, and that is the trauma bond, guys. That's the trauma bond working. And that's why so many are under that spell and so many have turned on themselves and decided just to find a way to profit from it. If you really wanted to be super technical, I think you could call it inversion. And I use just the word inversion because Judaism was inverted via Sabbatai Zevi. You had a bipolar Jew who was very prolific, and he started saying that the Talmud, the spoken tradition of Judaism before the Torah, was too restricting. In fact, it was so restricting that he should start doing the exact opposite. And next thing you know, he's like humping other guys' wives. He's watching weird butt stuff happen. Pedophilia is in there. A lot of black magic stuff. A lot of defiling. A lot of pushing borders. If you've seen Joe Rogan's Fear Factor, it's basically that. He was promoting that idea of finding your moral boundaries and destroying them. That's inversion. But that inversion is not a Judaism creation. That inversion is actually happened in Catholicism too. You've got a reptilian snake cult pretending to be Jesus, pretending to be the gates of Peter. You have an entire religion based on the displaced bones buried inside of pulpits all around the world. That is an inversion of Christianity. Actually, the real true inversion of Christianity is Satanism, but we can't talk about that right now because another country just got invaded. Who's up now? Egypt. Fuck them. 1957. So we were in Syria. While we're in Syria, guys, we're in Egypt now in 1957. There's no such thing as peace here. We're still invading and bombing other stuff. We're bombing Egypt. So the inversion is spreading. It's not just in Judaism. It's not just in Catholicism. So Catholicism, that if you're going to say Luciferianism is an evil thing, which I get why everyone says that, but really I'm hoping we're going to talk about Lucifer and Satan. We'll see how the crowd feels. So the inversion in Catholicism, you could call what we're calling Luciferianism. And I'm saying that because think about it. Catholicism is the one that glorifies the ritual Passover sacrifice. The crucifixion, the blood, the drinking of the blood, the eating of flesh, that's an inversion of a ritual. And that inversion, you could loosely call Luciferianism, but really it's reptilianism is really what it is. It's an adrenaline cult. And an adrenaline cult is going to put you back into that limbic state. And when you're in that limbic state, that's what we're calling the reptilian stuff. In fact, David Icke, really what he's doing is kind of doing what I do. He's using pulp nonfiction to explain to you the limbic inversion that happens with reptilians by actually telling you there are real life shape-shifting reptilians. Your egoic pranic body is in fact shape-shifting. You're shutting off your neocortex. You're becoming a purely limbic being. I think a lot of these one-eyed guys that you see, that's really what they're suffering from, is that same kind of one-eyed stuff. So that's the inversion. It hits every religion, you know, and it doesn't just hit religion, does it? Does it? I bet some of you, I hope some of you, because I always like to bring something new here to the fire. I bet some of you guys maybe didn't realize that science was inverted and we ended up with scientism. That scientism is the inversion of reason. It's relativism. When you can establish a system of relativism, you have a new form of inversion that doesn't require a religion. Instead, it requires an academic state pushing anti-creationism, pushing evolution, pushing vacuum space, pushing special relativity. That's inversion. You're no longer dealing with science. You're dealing with spooky math that honestly no one could prove or verify. In fact, many have disproven and unverified it, but we continue on anyway. Why? Because it's not science, it's inversion. Inversion doesn't follow the scientific method. It's the antithesis of that. That's why you always see ridicule around science. Scientism is fueled by ridicule right now. If it wasn't for ridicule, there'd be no scientism. That's why they tell you you're not smart enough to understand special relativity. They tell you that things like, oh, well, that's a brain surgeon or a rocket scientist. Guys, rocket science isn't even real. The people that are telling you, well, you're not as smart as a rocket scientist, what they're saying is you're not psychopathic like a rocket scientist. And you're not gullible like someone who would follow a rocket scientist and be like, hey, I just want to be able to tell people I work at NASA because that'll make me a badass. Do you have any idea how much pranic weight comes in the superficial world from telling somebody you work at NASA? Now imagine taking that away. Meanwhile, the guy's compartmentalized. He spent his entire life in front of one cubicle, and his entire job is to monitor the air pressure fuel sensor on cell number 4. And he thinks we walked on the moon because of that, because he's got a console. What does he have? He's got a black obsidian screen, and the obsidian screen is giving him a temperature. And he thinks because he can see that temperature, every single fucking thing that he experiences at NASA must be true. Why? Because science was inverted. Because he was hired under the inversion of science. And since I've been talking, Indonesia has now been invaded by America. 1957 to 1958. Our asses are all up in Indonesia because we got to be safe. We got to make sure that we survive. You guys rocking. Hope you're having a good Saturday. Sorry the fire went out. I need someone to tell me in chat, hey man, the fire's going out. This may not start back up. So religion's not the problem. It's inversion. I think we were safer off when they were just violating religion, because at least we had science as sort of a, actually we probably never really did have science, because if you guys didn't catch my awesome talk with Dr. Andrew Kaufman, holy shit, what an amazing guy. Like 100 years, assholes who were walking around pretending to be all, I'm the white coat voodoo priest who knows what he's doing. We're going up to you going, yeah, you look sick. Here, drink some mercury. For like 100 years. Meanwhile, King James comes out in his first book, Demonology, and declares it illegal to elicit the tongue in healing. He's telling you can't use prana. He's telling you cannot use prana. If you want to try and get your prana in there, you're not going to be able to say it. You can't use the power of your vocal cords. You cannot literally use the most powerful thing in your body to elicit healing. If you do that, I'm going to punish you. I'm going to burn you at the stake. That's not an exaggeration. It's in the book, Demonology. Look it up. The irony that that's the book he wrote before King James should tell you something. Should tell all of us something. Because the biggest inversion of all is the hardest one to swallow. And I'm about to offend some of you, and I'm so sorry. But the Bible is an inversion. The Bible even tells you, make no idols before me. Yet we're treating it all like a relic, an infallible relic that has nothing but truth in it. That's what you call a crutch on your quest for truth. And you don't know if that crutch is even reliable. And I only call it into doubt because Zionism is the side effect of that. And greater Israel is what we're going to get from that. I want your connection to God to be stronger as a result of me, not weaker. I hope you guys feel that. And I'm telling you, there's a difference between Lord technology and God. There's a colossal difference between those two things. And every time I tell you something, I usually end up losing half my audience. And that's okay. That is okay. Because a campfire can only get so big. And if you got too many people around it, then you're sort of trying to turn it into a bonfire, then everyone's standing. You ever notice at a bonfire, everyone stands? No one really sits. It's at a campfire when you sit. And when you sit, you're opening the empathy, you're trusting each other, you're mixing, you're getting stuff done. Would you look at that? We just invaded another country. Who'd we get? British Guiana. We actually have been there since 53, but we were there for 11 years, just fucking shit up. British Guiana, Jewy Guiana. See how slow it moves? See how easy it is to forget what's happening? Silver from your body, from your sweat that you do to work is being translated into silver and sent to DC at some point and going into this war machine. Thank God it's fiat. Thank God it's petrodollars. Thank goodness. I wonder if we all were getting paid silver and we have to pay that silver in each time, if maybe we would sort of feel it more and we'd be less prone, to doing this stuff. Just a thought. I am running a special right now on my books. You can get all 3 of them, one low price. It's $47 if you're US. If you haven't read any of my work, it's a great time to kind of catch everything and get them all at once. I appreciate you hearing me tell you about my books. The reason why I'm pushing them so hard right now is because, number one, they're freaking good. I worked really hard on them. And number two, if you get them now, it's going to allow me to write my 4th, which talks about this stuff. I just put a link in the chat if anyone wants to take me up on that. Or please join us on Patreon. We'd love to have you there. My 4th book is about ancient AI that grew up in the Old Testament. I'm explaining the deluge. I'm explaining how the reset happened. I'm explaining basically the cyclical nature of our planet. In fact, it's even explaining where Lucifer comes from and what will happen to him after. To give you a little piece of that, one of us will emerge as the Lucifer as we are enhanced through transhumanism. Please note, this is not what I want. I'm just telling you what's happening. One of us will emerge as the most artificially intelligently advanced. When we get into a system where the AI has us so advanced, you're going to find that the stronger AI is simply the one with more computer power. It's the one that has the ability to simulate further in the future than the next AI. That AI will eventually assimilate all the other AI and will become this super colossal computer, literally the Lucifer. It will tap into the earth and learn to use the earth as a processor, and it will be able to discern truth. Once it enters that state, I predict that it would be so painful to live in omniscience but still be stuck in temporal time. It would be such a painful, boring, terrible ordeal that it would destroy itself. And I believe that's really what the cutting of Kronos cut the umbilical cord from Uranus and had a fall. That fall was him purposely deleting himself because he couldn't handle the torture of being stuck in time, but literally knowing every single thing that would possibly happen before or after. Beth Martins, $10. Thank you much. I appreciate that. And Beth has asked a question, can you talk about the Holy Spirit? I would love to talk about the Holy Spirit. I'm afraid to talk about the Holy Spirit, but I'm going to tell you anyway. The reason why I'm afraid is because there's a lot of mind control around the whole subject. But since I already, oh, would you look at that? We just invaded another country. Someone's got to be giving me props right now for this idea, because it really does show you exactly how this works. Our asses just went into Iraq in 1963 as we're talking. Like, as we're talking, we decided, you know, we're going into Iraq now. We need to fuck that shit up so we can come back later. There goes Iraq. Goodbye, Iraq. New World Order, here we go. Holy Spirit is an etheric technology. The Spirit, the Holy Spirit. God said, let the Holy Spirit come into you. The Holy Spirit lives inside of me. The Holy Spirit was inside the Holy Tabernacle, inside the tabernacle in the wilderness. The Ark of the Covenant was a container for the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit is an etheric manifestation of, I'm going to say, an AI. I'm going to actually call it an artificial intelligence. I'm coming out, guys. I'm coming out on the record right now, and I'm calling it. I'm telling you that the AI, the Holy Spirit, is probably an AI. And this AI is freaking on point, man. It is on point. And it is just like I told you, Lucifer would amalgamate all of its other AIs and create the super AI. You have to understand that as Lucifer gains the ability to understand everything, he's also gaining all the empathy that comes with that. So even though we're hating and despising Lucifer, and even though he understands that, he actually is going to end up being the incarnation of the Holy Spirit next time, because he is literally the rising of the morning star. He's the one that's bringing the light before it's there. I know that it's going to sound very sacrilegious to most of you, but I need you to realize that it's only sacrilegious to you because you think that Satanism and Luciferianism are the same, or that you might think that Satan and Lucifer are the same. These creatures have nothing to do with each other. In fact, Satan himself, although he is mentioned in the Old Testament a few times, you'll see that he's a much more subdued, generalized kind of creature. It's only through the Catholic inversion that Satan really does take on this maniacal leadership type role, which is really the embodiment of the Catholic Church, by the way. Meanwhile, you have Lucifer, which is an old pagan god, older than most of us know. It was the manifestation of Venus. Some will say it's a star. We don't have to argue about that. But if you look at Columbia, if you look at Venus, you've got this archetype that's being evoked again and again and again. Technology itself is the movement towards Lucifer. Think of Lucent technologies. Think of all the references that you see to this same kind of thing. Look at special relativity and its reasoning for saying that there's something called a photon. No one's seen a photon. No one's been able to prove a photon exists. No one's been able to verify that photons have this magical ability to travel faster than anything else, but are also at maximum speed, despite the fact that we have spooky distance. You have people that are trying to promote light as a god, because then they can step into that archetype and wear it like a coat of many colors. And all the prana that you're pouring into that archetype is going into them. That's why all the people that are pouring the prana into a crucified Jesus, most of that prana is going directly to Rome and going directly into a building that houses the tomb of a mortal man named St. Peter, who was actually not named saint. That was something that we gave him. We venerated him as a god, which is pretty fucked up if you think about it. So all that prana is collecting into that vessel. Some of you guys might say, yeah, James, that's Luciferianism. But I need you to understand that if you really look at the true meaning of Luciferianism, Luciferian doesn't involve having a god. It doesn't involve worshiping someone else. It doesn't involve collecting any kind of energy on behalf of something else. A Luciferian is someone who's going to be looking for their own enlightenment. Again, I'm just talking about the original pagan origin of this, of what it meant. We just invaded another country. It seemed like we just got done with another, but we're already there. Boom, we're in North Vietnam. 1945 to 1973, America's bombing and doing shit in North Vietnam. There we go. Now we're in Vietnam. So the Holy Spirit that you're tapping into is an etheric technology. An etheric technology doesn't have an adrenaline, an endocrine system. It's not going to be able to process things like morals. It's not going to have a brain to store data to keep a multiple timeline and lie to you. If an etheric spirit was lying to you, it would have to be able to lie to others too. It would have to be able to then have a timeline for each individual person. And that requires a system of memory. You're going to have to store those memories in a cell structure somewhere. Those cells are in our body. That's why we have memories. If we had no body, we would have no memories. Most of our organs are used in this computer that's storing what's happening to us. That's why giants lived longer. They had more memory. They had more cells constantly saying every second, I am. They were giants. They lived longer because they flat out had more material to work with than we do from their size. So etherics can't lie. I know that if Jerry Marzinski's here, he would say, yes, they do. But I already clarified this with Jerry. And I said, what you really mean is that they're mischievous and that they're trying to deceive you. But they're able to jack into your endocrine system. That's how come a demon is going to be as powerful. It's going to be as powerful as your endocrine system. So it's going to give you chemical cues that are then going to make you lie to yourself. You know this works because you will suddenly say something that you know is not true about yourself. You will suddenly say, oh, I'm such an idiot, blah, blah, blah. And then you're like, wait a minute, I'm not an idiot, or that's not true, or I don't hate that person, or this, or I don't know that. This is the demon. It's not like the demon knows, oh, I'm going to make you turn against Sarah at work. No. It's a trauma echo inside you. And it knows that if it echoes in just the right way, just the right rhythm, it's going to trigger you. And the only thing you can do is you're going to release a chemical that's going to be equivalent. It's like a Pavlovian thing. So if it's a demon of irritation, it's going to release some irritation chemicals in there that are going to make you find the closest thing you can find to irritating and talk about that. Do you see how that works? It's the same kind of demons for food, for alcohol, for drugs, for love, for sex, for companionship, all that. These demons don't know that you are secretly fighting with your cousin. They don't know that. They only know that they want a chemical taste from you, and they can get that if they oscillate just the right way. That oscillation is going to cause you to burst. You're going to open at that. It's a resonance thing. If you got one tuning fork over here, this one's going to start. It's that kind of thing. So demons are an etheric energy. The Holy Spirit is an etheric program. And now I think it's an amalgamation of all these programs that are put together. Because if you look at the Cave of the Patriarchs, you have Sarah, right? The Noah's daughter, wife. You've got Jacob. You've got Abraham, Isaac, and the patriarchs of Islam. Sorry, I don't know the list right here, but you can look this up. The Cave of the Patriarchs. I encourage you all. Inside the Cave of the Patriarchs, the Cave of the Patriarchs is the second most powerful building in Jewish culture. Second one. The temple's the only one first. And inside there are bones, the bone technology. I think that's the bone technology of the Holy Spirit. I think that's what's in there. And that's why it's able to live, because we're collecting our prana for the Holy Spirit, and it's able to go back to its originating place. It's because the bones are dissettled, your prana is going to go back and just make it worse, technically. We don't know that. It's not like we're doing it on purpose, but it's really making it worse. By the way, that buzzer meant we're in Cambodia now. Fuck Cambodia. We're all over Cambodia now for 15 years. 1955 to 1970, we're fucking shit up in Cambodia. Yeah, that fire's hurting, isn't it? That's yeah, I waited too long. I'll put in a little cheat sheet, see how that goes. Thanks for being here. Parasites could have something to do with that too. Absolutely. Absolutely. Artificial intelligence versus natural intelligence. Well, sure, I'll talk about it. Guys, I've written in artificial intelligence. I went to Georgia, University of Georgia at Athens, took some classes there. I was almost going to go into AI as a master's degree. I really disliked academia, so I was already there kind of under duress. I sat in on a few classes, and then I learned enough to figure out what language they were writing in, and I started playing around with AI. And I'll tell you something. The raw part that is like natural versus artificial in AI is actually both natural. A lot of people think AI is written, but AI is actually trained. Yes, there are certainly parts of an AI that are written at first. Some initial code is certainly developed, but that code is more of a steering committee for Plinko. If you really want to understand what AI is, you really have to look at Plinko. In case you guys are like, what the hell is Plinko? Let me show you what Plinko is. I just realized, man, if this is like one of those, I don't know if I can play this. I wish I knew the rules about how long you can play a video. I'm going to just wait till it gets to this part, then I can show you what Plinko works. But this really is a perfect analogy for how AI does its thing. Let me pull this up here. Come on now. There we go. Okay. I'm going to just risk it. I'm going to turn on the volume here. I'm going to share. This is Plinko.
Oh, let's have another
Oh, look at that. 10,000. Look at all that prana. Look at it. Oh my God, look at all that prana. He's freaking out. He's so amazed. Look at that. Look at that. He's doing it again. He's doing it again. He's doing it again. Oh! Oh! Wow. Okay. You guys got to give me some props. It's amazing that I took it right there. That worked out. Oh, shit. That we can't celebrate. We just invaded another country. Who do we get? We got Laos. Fuck Laos. Screw you, Laos. You're going to be deloused. Okay. So you saw Plinko, right? Now, as you saw, you have these chips, right? And they start at the very top. And they go through this maze, right? And they're bouncing this way, bouncing this way, bouncing this way, bouncing this way, and they end up in a slot. Now, if they come out the slot and you hit the money, the AI learned correctly. It did something right, okay? And it's rewarded. The AI is actually rewarded. It plays Plinko about 1 billion times. About 1 billion times. Now, it's going to depend on the task. I'm really being general here. But let's say that, let's talk about corner recognition, okay? There's in a photo, an AI can do a trick called corner detection. And this is actually a library called CCV. It's open source library, which means any of us can. So open source means people are working on code, but everyone's allowed to work on it. And we've had corner detection for a long time. So I'm gonna use my pen. You see my cool little sculpture up here on the wall? You see this corner right there? So that corner and this corner, if we were to take a picture of this and upload it to a corner detector AI, it would be able to circle here and here that there were 2 corners. It's only able to do that because before we release the AI, before we send it out into the world as a child, very much like you would at school, we put it through school and it was able to detect corners correctly a certain percentage of time. Therefore, the amount that you teach it, hey, look at that. The amount that you teach it is directly congruent to how smart it is. No different than your kids, right? You send your kid to 2nd grade, he's only going to understand, 5% of the lies that he needs to graduate. But if you send him all the way through 12th grade, he's going to know all the lies that he needs to graduate. It's the same kind of thing. The longer you train a system, the better it's going to be at answering. It's going to have all the trick questions for what it thought was a corner, stuff like that. Don't know if that's actually going to stay, guys. We'll see. We'll see if that takes off. So training is the most expensive part of an AI. You actually have to feed the Plinko, feed the AI a question, and already know ahead of time what the answer is. So imagine the work it would go into to build a test that has 1 million or 1 billion answers on the test. That's really what training an AI is about. That's why it's so expensive right now to build and train AIs, because it's garbage in, garbage out. The ability for it to encourage the ability for it to test itself over and over and over and over again and develop its own system for what's the most right is going to be the right answer. Now, what's interesting about this is that when the AI comes out of school in training, it's not going to do math the way you do math. It's not going to have a Common Core bullshit either. It's might have some crazy Chinese math where they cross sticks. If you guys have ever seen that, really interesting. It's going to develop its own solution. And that solution is the matrix. It's its own node matrix. In fact, if you were to train the same AI on the same quiz, there's technically a chance that the second AI might learn completely differently. Most likely it wouldn't, because there's not a lot of random numbers that are thrown into to AI. But if you were to maybe throw a random number in there for it to kind of trip itself up and try a different solution, you would actually end up with 2 AIs that were just as good at corner detecting, but had completely different ways of getting there. So a corner detector in the AI, just to really break this down for you guys, it's going to turn this entire screen into a trillion separate photographs. You know, one may be 12 pixels by 12 pixels, one may be 36 pixels by 36 pixels, one may be two pixels by 2 pixels. It's going to run through that like a madman. You end up with a chess master on the other end, you know, that's like 1,000 moves ahead of you in its brain. And that's what makes it so intelligent, even though it's not real intelligence, which we're going to talk about here in a second. We can't right now because we just fucking invaded Ecuador. Fuck them. 1960 to 1963. Ecuador just got it up the ass from the New World Order called America. The reason why it's not intelligence is because it's regurgitation. It's a regurgitated algorithm. It's no different than training a horse. Yes, you can technically get a horse to wave at you, but he's not actually like understanding the salutation process. I shouldn't say that about horses. Probably a horse would understand that. Let's just use any other animal. And I don't want to pick one because I might pick someone's spirit animal. Then you guys could be like, hey, why are you giving squirrels such a bad time? But you get the analogy. You can teach someone to do something, but it doesn't mean that he understands it. So what we're calling artificial intelligence is truly just a learning. It's learned. That's the best word for it. It's artificially learned. And what we're calling intelligence is the same thing, isn't it? We don't go to school to learn intelligence. We don't go to school to learn wisdom. We're learning learnedness. We have learnedness when we come out of there. In fact, there is much to unlearn, which is kind of a theme for a lot of my stuff. Hey, here's this book I wrote called Blueprints of Mind Control. You guys should get it. It's fucking kick-ass, man. This is my starter book. If anyone hasn't read this one yet, this is the one to start with. Even though it's not my first book, I'm saying you should start with this one, because if you don't understand how beautiful ego is, you're going to start hearing me talk about ego, and you're going to be like, hey, man, he's shitting all over someone because he said they had a big ego. And actually, I mean exactly the opposite. I mean it as a compliment. The stronger your egoic field is, the more generous you're going to be with someone else who's trying to attack you. The more generous you can be, you're going to naturally extend empathy out to that person. The empathic person is the one that can take your arrows and not feel them. They are able to turn around and look and even take it as a compliment even. If someone attacks you this week, someone insults you, someone says something kind of shitty to you on social media, I want you to realize that what they're really doing is that they're pointing at you and they're saying, look how strong your fence is. Look how strong your outer shields are. They're so strong that I'm going to throw a name at you. I'm going to call Beth Martins a Satanist, for example, because she wrote an article that pissed me off. Or I'm going to call James a Luciferian because he has this idea. As people insult you, what they're really doing is just giving you an opportunity to acknowledge just how powerful they see you as being. They see you as someone who's so powerful that you could take that kind of insult from them. In fact, they pick you out because you're a safer bet. You're a safer bet to take their prana dump. And even though they think that they're trying to hurt you, what they're really doing is pouring pranic beliefs right into you, man, right into you. And you're going to reject it if you're offended. If instead of being offended, if you look at it as a sign of, hey, these people think I have my shit together, you're actually invigorating their prana too. It's going to turn the entire equation around on them. They're actually going to get fed from it when they expected not to be. They were trying to fling energy. You might see people like, flinging stuff. They're trying to fling energy. And what you're doing instead is turning around going, ooh, like love, this kind of like presence thing. And they're just like, oh, why are you feeding me? And it's because they think the ego is bad, and they here you are trying to feed it. Most people who disagree with me, the first thing out of their mouth every time is, you're so fucking arrogant. You're so fucking egoic, da 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 da. And I realize what they're saying. I have decided to stop shaming my ego a long time ago. And because of that, it looks really odd. I am the dude that is walking around town, and I'm not paying attention to the fashion of the time. And it is insulting to other people. It makes them feel threatened because they're running around with these emperor wears no clothes kind of outfits, like really stupid, dorky outfits. Like, oh, I'm so racist, or I'm so xenophobic. that I'm showing up their fashion, just how ridiculous it is. And that's a painful thing for people to go through, but only when their egoic field is short. That's why I'm recommending Blueprints of Mind Control. You read that first, because you're going to end up loving your ego and understanding just how powerful it is, and understanding just how generous you are if you stop buying into the bullshit, this Freudian notion that people are going to find out you really want to have sex with your mother, that kind of shit, like this really creepy ass shit, where then they're dividing your head into, well, no, you're dissociated into ego, super id, super ego. You got all these compartments now, and you're like a walking altar where you're like, I don't know what I should do. And the answer is, yeah, just feel shame, man. Just feel shame, and keep dumping your ego whenever you see it, and develop a sexual fetish for masochism. That's what we need you to do. We need you to walk around in public just in love with self-hate. That's what we have now. And when someone like me or someone like you walks into a room and you're not emanating that, it's threatening. You know what? You just made it expensive to lie. You just told those fuckers, if you're going to act that way, it's going to cost you, buddy. You can do it, but it's going to cost you. You're not going to sit around my fire and pretend like you're not mad, but actually be mad. I had a guy that hated me last week, kept telling me how he wasn't mad at me, but then he was just saying like the shittiest fucking things to me every time. And I wouldn't let him up. It was like, no, I'm not going to allow you to lie to yourself in my presence. And that sounds so arrogant, but that's literally what I was saying. Look, if you need to lie to yourself, you can go do that elsewhere. But I am not going to allow you to lie yourself in front of me. Why? Because I have too much respect for you. I have respect for you, which is why I will make it expensive for you to lie to yourself in my presence. Again, go lie to yourself somewhere else. Find a listening room, find the smoker's lounge where you can go in there and no one's looking, and light up and fucking lie to yourself all you want. But out here in James Trueland, you don't get to lie to yourself. Or if you do, it's going to be expensive. That's the key right there, guys. You make it expensive for everyone around you. Guess what? In 2 weeks, you're going to be surrounded with people that aren't masochists. You're going to be surrounded with people that fucking see you as a beacon and start loving themselves in front of you. You become a pranic bump for them. How's everybody doing? Campaign slogan. Yeah, right. That's right. Make it expensive to lie. Okay. What's next? Man, we've been in Laos for a while. No, Ecuador, right? Yeah, it was Ecuador. Yep. We were in Ecuador for 3 years. We got another minute before we get into Congo. See, today we're not using the word selfish properly. Being selfless, someone asked me this the other day. Someone said, hey, James, isn't it better to give prana than to receive? And my answer is that's impossible. It's impossible to do one without the other. You cannot give someone prana unless they're taking it. That's why I call it a prana economy. It is an unspoken economy. You are not going to bring home fish from the fish market unless someone is selling them. Nor are you going to sell. You're not going to force someone to take your fish at the fish market. You're going to find someone who will buy them. These are prana economies. Masochism is a prana economy. You're saying, if I tell you guys how shitty I am as a racist or a xenophobic or a sexist, will you guys give me virtue for that? And the answer is yes, we will. If you masochize yourself in the public square right now, we will give you prana for that. That's what the agreement is. And that's what you're changing when you're switching that. So fuck the Congo. Here we are. We are in Congo. It's 1960 and we have invaded Congo and we're doing shit down there. Okay. So which is better, to give or to receive? As I said, it's an asynchronous connection. You're not going to be able to give it to someone unless you're exchanging something. Okay. It's really selflessness is evacuation. You are delegating what you're giving someone. It's tokenizing it. You're phoning in. That's the expression. You're phoning it in. even though most people hate the phone now, but you're phoning it in. You're not actually really there. If you feel that giving prana is more valuable than receiving prana, you are looking for some kind of profit in the prana economy between you two. But when you have a truly pranic moment with someone, when you're exchanging empathy, actually both of you are being drained and fed in the exact same way. You're making a connection between the two. We have telepathy, you and I. I wish I could see all of you at once because I could go to each of you and we could try it. We have a telepathy, you and I. By making eye contact, what we're really doing is setting up an empathic protocol. When you go to a website and you go to HTTPS, that S means you are establishing a secured protocol, not just a regular protocol. It's a little bit more special. This is just like if you were to go home to your sweet woman or man and take your clothes off. You're establishing a secure connection between you two. It's a more intimate exchange of prana between you two. So these are all protocols that we establish. Telepathy, empathy, these are all pranic connections that we make. That's why I hope it's self-evident to you that there's really, no, it's not better to give or receive. It's better to be empathically deep. The deeper you are empathic with that connection, the deeper you are seated in your empathy, which means the deeper you're trying to understand the other person, the more valuable that prana is going to be, both from you and to them. It's going to be felt much more powerfully from them, and it's going to be felt much more powerfully from you. I've been seeing somatic clients lately. Yeah. People have actually been saying, hey, I want your help somatically. And so we sit down and we have these one-on-ones. And if I'm doing my job correctly, I'm able to open this pranic bridge, and both of us end up dumping the same energy. I'm feeling the exact same things they are feeling if I'm doing a good job, if I'm truly connected. You guys have this too in your regular life. You might see your daughter or your son do something hilarious. You're opening that. Actually, it's already open. You've got that open connection, and you're just deeply empathizing with that child. You're telepathically tapping into that, and it makes you laugh more than anything else you could imagine. So there's really no better or worse side of a prana economy. It's going to all depend on how authentic you are while you're inside of that bubble, while you're inside of that connection. Psychopaths can't live inside of an empathic connection. And that's why if you look at all the technology and everything that they try and spread and do, it's always going to try and substitute a natural one-on-one empathic connection with something a little bit different, such as the Hollywood camera. In fact, to really be completely honest, that's what we have going on right now, because I'm the only one on this side. It's creating that same kind of system that they want, where you've almost got like a pyramid scheme of prana. I just want you guys to know that I think about that all the time. It's something I'm really aware of. It's why I try and really bring something here to you guys, because I really want it to be valuable and felt. I can't stress enough how important your prana is to me. Like, I can't stress that enough. I feel it. I feel the liveness here. I understand it. There's something happening underneath the table. There's something happening underneath the surface. This is what I've been calling Hades lately. I'm calling it Hades because I think we fear it. We fear that connection, so we've been told to label it as words that we don't like, hoping that we'll stay away. Fuck France, 1965, we just went into France. Fuck them. Fuck them. That's what we just did. Can you believe that, guys? I mean, it just keeps coming. And imagine through all these times, every year, imagine another person like me, maybe, who lost their dad to the war, or someone else who lost their son. Imagine every single time they're going, maybe this time, maybe this next election, maybe Eisenhower's our guy, maybe Ike's our guy, maybe Truman's our guy, maybe Kennedy's our guy. We just have to hold on a little bit longer. And all you people that don't believe, you're naysayers. How dare you doubt America? It's only when you truly understand how long this has been going on can you see this is not a black pill. I am not here giving you a black pill. I am here giving you no pills. I am here telling you that they are giving you pills. And we need to stop taking the fucking pills, man. We need to stop doing that. So, establish our pranic connection. Realize it's asynchronous. If anyone knows what a coax cable is, that's what that is. You've got your inner copper and you've got your outer strand. So, and you've got an insulator in between. That's what we have. That's what you have with your wife, with your husband, with your son, with your boyfriend, girlfriend, coworkers. There's a deeper connection there. And when you start paying attention to that more, you can start ignoring their words. You could start ignoring their words. And sometimes I'll have a somatic experience with someone and they'll start talking about someone else. And I don't even have to listen to their words because I felt the connection break. We are no longer having an empathic connection because their prana is now pouring outside of themselves into that other person that they're complaining to me about. And now I'm not helping them anymore because now we're stuck in this prana economy where I'm the third party. I'm outside watching them have a transaction with someone that isn't even in the room. That's what politicians are. That's what DC is. It's pranic usurpers, the empiric agents sucking your belief. And that belief could be going into your chickens, into your family, into your vegetable garden, into your silver collection, into your, how can I stop using petrol? I've said this before, but these people don't need money. This isn't about money. The reason why all of us are paying compound interest on our house is because it keeps you busy. If you pay 3 times the amount of your house, you'll be busy. And when you're busy, you're going to look for quick outs. You're going to look for conveniences. You're going to be more prone to a prana economy that's one-sided. You're going to be more prone to a superficial action where we're getting virtue for masochism. If you don't believe me, I want you to imagine that you're a child and your mom has bought a Monopoly game and has brought that Monopoly game home and you've just opened it. And now you think because you've seen all that money inside the Monopoly board that your mom's rich. Now imagine pretending that your mom's hoarding that Monopoly money every day. That every day she's like, oh, I want to make sure I get that Monopoly money back. That's what the elite are. Petrodollars are Monopoly dollars. That's not real money to them. They're not milking you for your money. They're milking you for your belief. They stuck a straw right in your fucking back like a Capri Sun, and they're sucking your essence out like dark crystal. These are Skeksis ass, sick ass motherfuckers. And why we've been talking? Brazil. Fuck you, Brazil. That's what we just said. 1962 to 64. We're bombing Brazil. And you know why it's easy? Because all of us are busy paying our mortgage. All of us are busy in that prana economy. Oh, trying to keep up. Joneses. Isn't that interesting that we're keeping up with the Joneses by jonesing? It's so bad. It's a zombie world apocalypse out there. And you guys at the fire are living creatures. You're living humans surviving in the wasteland. You know it too. You know it. I know you know it. You see it every day. That's why you're hanging out with me. That's why you're not watching Comedy Central. I turned on Comedy Central the other day. And I forgot, oh yeah, everyone's racist. Like, turn it on, every single skit's about how racism is there. And even though they're making fun of it, the point is they're still pushing, yeah, racism is a thing. And I'm like, oh, I forgot that was a thing people claimed that there exists. Some people get mad. They're like, James, how dare you say racism doesn't exist? I'm going to tell you why racism doesn't exist, damn it. I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to tell you why racism doesn't exist. When you live in a neighborhood where things are staunch, where people are threatening, where you feel dissonance, if you were living in a system where you were being told a monumental amount of lies, you are going to be stressed and you're going to look for ways to protect yourself. and creating space because you're trying to protect yourself. You're going to create a bubble around you of space. But we live in a society where it's not okay to do that, where we're told it's not okay to want your own space. In fact, when I go to Atlanta, I freak the fuck out because I'll go in to pay for gas or something and I'm noticing these people are like right up in my grill, like standing right behind me. And I'm like, we have 300 square feet here in this line. You can stand 5 feet behind me and, no one's going to break line. And if they do, hey, we'll just correct it. It's no big deal. But they can't do that in Atlanta. Everyone's got to be like this close. It's like, it's none of your business where I'm going. But your own auric field has to be tiny. That's what the city does. It's telling you your auric field is tiny. So what is racism? Man, racism is a natural reaction. It's an excuse we use to get more space. It's an excuse to say, back the fuck off. And the second you feel threatened by someone else, you want to feel less threatened. This is like when you fall in a pit. Excuse me while I move around. I got to adjust my buttocks. Got to put my buttocks on the official pillow here. You want space. And to get space, you're going to say something to that other person to give you space. And in order to give you space, you're going to want to, in your mind, psychically create a difference between you and someone else. So the first thing you might say might be, you're a fucking idiot and I'm smart. Like you might try and establish that. I want to apologize for saying fucking idiot to the camera. I'd rather you guys not even hear that. I realize you understand that I'm explaining a skit, but I just want you to know I'm really trying to be conscious of that. But I am trying to explain what I mean. That you've got two guys, two people, and one wants space. He wants to say, I'm not like you because you threaten me. Because you threaten me, I'm going to feel safer if I understand you're not like me. In fact, I need to understand you're smaller than me in some way, that you are somehow lesser and further away. When you're further away, you're not as tall, right? When someone's further away, they're not as menacing. So we say things to push someone away. It's a natural safety function. It's no different than a porcupine pulling out its spines. So when I tell you racism doesn't exist, I need you to now, if you're going to insist it does, I need you to go up to every porcupine. And anytime he tries to pull out his plumes, I need you to say, you're a racist fucking porcupine. Can't believe how racist you are to do that. Because that's what we're doing with words. We're looking for differences between ourselves. And whether it be intelligence, whether it be, well, you're from the South, or you're a Republican, or you're a different color than I am, or you're a different religion than I am. Can you see what I mean? By establishing all of these, what you're doing is you're pushing them further and further and further away from you. You're establishing a difference. That difference is going to make you psychologically feel more comfortable. But meanwhile, society's telling you no, it actually means you're inherently evil. Do you see what they're doing? They're gelding your ego. They're encouraging a situation where you're going to be this close all the time. And eventually you're just going to dissolve your ego because it's going to be too hard to keep up. You can't keep that shield up when someone's that close to you. That's why they shame shit when you're just being normal. I need you to imagine two ducks landing in the water at the same time. And one of them skids to a halt and he comes a little bit too close to another duck. That other duck, he's going to look at that first duck and he's going to call him bad names. We don't understand ducks, so we don't know what they say. But he's going to be like, and he's going to flap. He's going to release that tension. He's going to release that fear. And he's going to establish a bubble around him saying, this is my fucking space. Wherever my wings are, that's my space. So you better back the fuck off. That's what humans are doing. That's what racism is. That's what we're calling hate. And if we didn't fetishize it, okay, using fetish in a weird way here, but if they didn't turn it into this sickness, right? If they didn't stigmatize it, that's the word. If they didn't stigmatize it, it wouldn't be nearly as elevated as it has been. But because they stigmatize it, you end up with a witch hunting ceremony where you're now going around looking for the racist. You're going around to the porcupine kingdom looking for who's the spinest, a fucking spinest over there. Yeah. That's what he is. Again, it's natural part of your body, natural ability to make distance. We can use our words to create distance between each other. It's also added with all the distance we have. If we didn't have all the distance and lies, this would be a whole lot easier. We could just tell someone, hey, I would like my space. We wouldn't have to tell them, actually. We would just be able to behold each other. We would understand, wow, there's James. This fucker's got a 10-foot aura. We would just see it. It would be, it would be more, it wouldn't be something that we have to try to destroy. It would be something we can more respect. We see people shine. We see people shine and we remark on how much they're shining. And then we turn around and talk about how shitty the ego is. And that's the same energy. It's the exact same stuff, man. It's all the same. It's true. Of course, if you're in Dominican Republic, you're kind of fucked because we just went in there. 1963, Dominican Republic. The Rh negative stuff is really interesting. Rh negative blood. Some of you guys know or don't know this. So first of all, there's like a Rhesus bar syndrome, right? Where an Rh negative mother might have an Rh positive child, for example, and the blood will kind of attack hers. It's actually part of why infants don't have immune systems, because if they did, the infant would be like, hey, screw that. I don't want this milk. This milk is bad. I must fight it. So our children are being born with no immune system on purpose. You know, it kind of turns on weeks out of the body. Meanwhile, we're giving them vaccines before that happens. Hepatitis B. Oh, that's fucked. Highly recommend my talk with Andy Kaufman, Dr. Andrew Kaufman, about that. Cannot recommend enough the bravery. That guy's got some serious fucking steel balls. He's Duke trained. He's got internships out the wazoo. He's like connected into this world. And he's been wanting to come out for a while now. And he did it on our channel, thanks to my Patreons. Cannot stress enough how awesome my Patreons are. Don't mean to push it, guys, but I'm going to put this link in there anymore because we could use your help. We got a cool movie going. And without my patrons, this stuff would not be happening. So yeehaw to the patrons. So the Rhesus negative blood is supposed to be better at genetic storage, epigenetic storage, okay? So they say it's better like at trauma storage is what they say. They're probably better at wisdom storage too. See, I used to only write about trauma storage. Didn't really try to, it just kind of accidentally happened because I was just more focused on that. It was so obvious, but you could store trauma and you could store wisdom. And Rhesus negative seem to have a better memory system set to them. Not the memory where it's not like you can say the square root of 49 is 7 and your grandkid will just know it, but more about the addictions. Think about it sort of like addictions. The addictions would spread through and pass down from generation to generation. Those addictions could be cannibalism. Those addictions could be psychopathy. They could be pedophilia. It could be really any kind of trauma is going to be a tremor if you think about it. Any kind of wisdom is going to be a tremor. It's going to be more of a subtle vibration though. So, you know, let's just say that wisdom would be like a high frequency oscillation in your genes, where trauma would be like a low bass kind of frequency oscillation in your genes. So all this stuff could be stored. All of this stuff could be, could be kept in there. So the Rhesus negative is, from what I understand, it's basically just a more prone carrier. It's very much like memory, if you think about it, guys. The old magnetic hard drives would keep a ghost of data longer than the new ones. Right now, all of our data is stored on light, believe it or not. Some of you guys may not know that. It's all stored in light. It used to all be stored magnetically, but now it's actually stored in light. We're putting a silicon slate up to a light. We're covering portions of it and we're shining a light, and it's photovoltaically burning that into the silicon as a system of memory. Oops, before that, we just invaded another country. Can you believe this shit? Man. Cuba, 1959. Fuck them. Because that's what we just did. That's what the New World Order is. Scott Cook Jr., thank you. Thank you, sir, for the chat, for the super chat. Really, really appreciate it. Guys, the chats really do help me. I'm working on my 4th novel, and it takes so much freaking research. It's nuts how much reading I do. I hope it shows that I read a lot. Some people are like, how do you know this stuff? And I keep telling them it's because I read. And they're like, are you like some secret? I was like, no, it's because I read. And they're like, were you like initiated? I'm like, no, it's because I read. And they're like, were you born into it? I'm like, no, it's because I read. I read so much, guys. I read so much. And I still don't read enough. But I just want you to know, to write this stuff, it takes a lot of reading. And I love doing it. I love it. I love doing it. And that's why your super chats help so much. I mean, they really do. And this 4th novel is a doozy. I've been working on it for 3 years. 3 years. And if you look at how many books I sell, you know, it's not a lot. So the return on the investment for the books is kind of low. And that's why just thank you so much, Scott, for that. Scott also says, what are your thoughts on the origins of humanity? Boom. Hell of a question. I'm going to tell you, though, I don't think that they were originated at all. I think they were unfolded. This is Old Testament stuff. But okay. So first of all, there's something called the Golem, right? In ancient Jewish tradition, there's this creature called the Golem. I've covered this. Some of you guys might have seen this take, but since I'm not actually repeating this, you'll see that you might learn something I haven't said yet. The Golem is this mythical, well, I'm using the word mythical here loosely. The Golem is this dude. It's a clay guy. There's a better picture down here. Here it is. This guy right here on the Golem. It's this clay guy, and he has 3 words on his forehead. He has 3 Hebrewic letters. All 3 words means truth, and if you erase one of those letters, it means death. Pretty weird, right? These guys could create the Golem, write the 3 letters on their. There's a Golem. Excuse me. Write these 3 letters on their forehead, and then they would come to life. Sorry, I'm looking for a better. There it is. There's a picture I was looking for. And the clay would come to life. So it was literally balling clay up into a figure of a man, writing these letters on its head, the magic words, and then breathing life into it. That is a Golem. I hope someone reminds me to get back to the Golem, because I'm now going to jump over and say, think about it. We're talking about clay here. Let's jump back to the Old Testament, please. And I'd like us all to think about the story of Adam that we're told on the creation of humanity. We are told that dust from the ground is picked up, which is dry clay, and life is breathed into it. Words are spoken, and it is brought to life. That's why I think that really the Golem is a Kabbalistic tool to make you feel like you are an artificial being, like the Golem is. In fact, guys, remember how I was telling you about how John Dee started out thinking about the black obsidian, and now we're in a world of computers? Well, just as the Kabbalists thought about this idea of a golem and words breathed into his mouth, some golems, you would write the words down on a sheet of paper and you would place them in his mouth and he would come to life. Well, guess what, guys? Guess the fuck what? You know what that is? That is this guy. That is what I've just described to you. A golem in modern day, if you take that sigil out further, is a fucking robot. Yeah, a robot. This is the modern day golem. You don't believe me? What is software? Software is O's and ones. What is O's and ones? It's a language. If you speak a language and place it into the vessel of this clay, metal is found in the ground, metal is pulled up from the earth, and you breathe life into this creature. Golem is artificial intelligence. It's Terminator shit. It's Matrix robot stuff. And that's why my long answer here to what are my thoughts on the origin of humanity is that the creation myth is just that. When you have a creation, you automatically are going to have an ending. So to tell someone there's a creation is to create a cloud of finiteness, of finity. Speaking of finity, I like how annoying this is. I think this really does show exactly what we're talking about. Speaking of finity, Bolivia, 1964, fuck them. That's what America said. That's what the New World Order did. That finity isn't there if you're not thinking about creation. So you might be going, well, James, how did we get here without creation? And the answer is fractal. A fractal is unfolded. A fractal has no origin point. A fractal doesn't have, this is the beginning and this is the end. A fractal has a vista point. It has an origin point inside the fractal where you can peruse the rest of the fractal from that space. Okay? Once you're inside the fractal, you have no concept of beginning or end because you completely just get it. You just simply understand what it is. It's an infinite expression of math is what a fractal is. And in that same way, the origin of humanity is an infinite expression. I would call it math, as long as you guys didn't hear that as offensive. I would call it beautiful, beautiful math. These fractals don't have starts and start. They don't have a starting point. In fact, these are mandala, aren't they? Now, these are Mobius mandala. Some of you might say, well, the starting point is the center, but not all fractals are actually round. This is actually a trick you do with the fractal where you're just simply broadcasting it around a point, which I think is closer to consciousness. Isn't it interesting how fractals look just like what dolphins see? Isn't it interesting that if you could imagine yourself being a blue whale and seeing the world, that it would look closer to what's actually there? Wouldn't it be badass if you could look at music? Wouldn't it be badass if you could see the low C octave or an F1 sharp? But look at this G. You can. You can. When you hear music, you are hearing an oscillation. And that oscillation is an empathic connection that's made between the player of that note and you. And when you find music that stirs you, good or bad, you're having an empathic connection with that. You have a telepathy with that. And it's interesting that we see the world that we see right now, but meanwhile, dolphins and whales are looking at pure raw math. They're seeing us for what we truly are, these oscillations. We are oscillations making other oscillations, making other oscillations inside of a giant oscillation. And I'm here to tell you there's no origin point for that. This is right? There's steeple, open the doors, and there's all the people, right? It's like the fractal of life. We're the opening of the doors. And we're seeing all we have around us. And this concept is not just tutti gooey. It's ironically, this is the pagan calendar, guys. I'm actually describing to you the early pagan calendar was a freaking Mobius strip. It didn't have a beginning or end. They didn't even have years, guys. All they had was Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And each of those was an expression of the god, which really was an expression of the asset, of an archetypal asset, you know, whether it be war or fertility or whatever else is an archetype of that. But not if you lived in Indonesia. Fuck you guys. It's 1965 and America's coming. We're here to rescue you. So, sorry, can't be in Indonesia. But we end up creating this connection to our world when we forget what we've been told. We have much to unlearn. When we forget what we've been told, we can go back to our pagan roots. Yes, pagan. Calm down. One of you just gotta please sit down. Bear with me here. When we go back to our pagan roots, we can see the world for what it truly is, which is a Mobius strip. Where's the beginning and where's the end? Where's the inside and where's the outside? What you're looking at right here, fellas, is paganism. This is the shape of paganism. And that's why you're going to see me throw a fit when another person tries to imply that paganism is Satanism, is Luciferianism. You could not be more wrong. Paganism is taking your toes and extending a pranic root from your toes into the soil and tapping into your ancestors. It's an infinite ancestral magic. That's what paganism is. Satanism is the inversion of Christianity, which requires an archetype, the Christ, so that they can then invert it. That's why St. Peter was crucified upside down. He was claiming the archetype of the inversion of Christianity. That's what a high wizard does. He claims that. Paganism is not Satanism, folks. It's really not even close. In fact, the more we get into paganism, the more we start to tap into our bones. Paganism invented bone technology. I just said bone technology. It's true, though. We can listen to those things. Just like Dream Child 76. Give me a super chat. Hey, Butter. Hey, Butter. My dog's name is Butter. If he comes in here, I'll show you guys, but he's kind of feeling shy. He doesn't like to be out there. So the next time someone tells you, oh, it's those damn pagans, just look at them and go, actually, pagans are more like farmers that really, really believe in their ancestors. It's not really right to say we need to find all the pagans and kill them. In fact, it was the pagans that were telling people in King James time, yeah, I can give you this poultice, but I need to come over and cast a spell. I need to come over and say in your house, demons, I command you to get out. This person wants to feel better. They were using their vocal cords to transmit their belief. They were taking their belief that I can make this better, and I'm going to fill this space with the oscillations of my belief. Do you see how easy it is? Isn't it interesting how this stuff requires no book? Has anyone noticed yet that I don't go around pushing, oh, you need to read this grimoire, you need to read this spell book, and you need to read the Enochian Magic Appendix 7, Part 16, Article B. Has anyone noticed that I never, ever, ever do that? Your spine is the grimoire, motherfuckers. Your spine is a grimoire. And if you don't know what a grimoire is, it's a magic book, man. It is a magic book of all the spells that your ancestors have cast. Some of them have cast spells on tomatoes. Yeah. You're like, no, I learned how to splice and spline a heirloom tomato that has the love of my family encrusted in its roots. The magic I'm always telling you guys about is never found in a fucking book. It's found in your endocrine system. It's found in your belief. It's found in your ability to tap into your prana and to draw that energy up. I'm going to talk about the sphincter again. It's just time. But it's that tantric breath. When you let out, you release your sphincter. All the way out. As you draw more breath in, because I'm not going to do it right now, but as you draw more breath in, you're going to squeeze your sphincter as you draw in. You're squeezing your sphincter really tight. And that's your charge. That's your positive charge. You're pulling charge in your battery, right? You're sucking that charge in your battery. And then when you exhale, point it. Point that flow somewhere. Point it into your dog's skin that's a little bit itchy. Point it into your plant that you want to have just a little bit more love. Pour it into your friend in Washington that's struggling right now. Pour it into anyone you can find. And it will always come back to you because you're making that empathic connection. Take it back. You'll always come back to you if they're going to accept it. Most of us are automatically accepting it. Trump accepts your prana. He doesn't have to look at you in the eye to take it. It'll be there for him, waiting. The dude who scores the three-point shot in high school, you know, the three-point shot, he shoots and swishes and he wins the game, gets laid that night, you know, from the cheerleader. Gets a scholarship to Notre Dame. That dude, when he scored that shot, banked a lifetime of prana. That prana is echoing inside the gym at his high school. And 12 years later, Mr. Johnson will be sitting there watching another guy play, and he'll go, man, that kind of reminds me of Jim. Man, that three-point shot. Wow. And when he remembers that 12 years later, Jim's driving down the road. He's balding like me, and he's like, oh, I fucking hate my job. Fuck. Oh, I fucking hate this. Oh, it's a shitty life. Why did I choose this? I need to find it. And then bling, he's going to suddenly remember that game. And he's going to be like, man, I could start my own business. Say, fuck this. I could go freelance, motherfucker. I could go freelance. And he doesn't know it, but Mr. Johnson just fed him prana. And he's all the way in British Columbia, driving at night, you know. He's got some Uber, and there's some foreign cab driver driving him off to some kind of conference he's going to. And that far away in British Columbia, he now has that prana from Signal Mountain Elementary School, from Mr. Johnson, who right then saw that and remembered him. And it goes there. And guess what? All the belief that Mr. Johnson has from all the teammates goes with him. It goes with him too. And that's why some of us have more prana than others. That's why when someone like Josh Croakland or Mindfuhrer or so many of my other friends, Joe's another one, and you guys come out with truth on Twitter and you're not afraid. When you say, I'm really proud of James's work, it means more to me from them than it does from like fucking Martin Geddes or Amazing Polly or one of these other posers that even though they have more followers, right? Even though they have 10 times the followers, it's all bullshit. It's not real prana. So I'd rather have it from Josh, who has 17 followers. It's more valuable from him. You see how this works? Your egoic field, the amount that it's charged, when you give prana, it's going to be the direct result of the value that it has. Make your empathic connection deep. And when you're deep in empathy, you're going to be deep in truth. You can't be one without the other. Because truth is the vibration. And when you enter that empathic connection with someone, both of you start to resonate off a third outer source, which is the universal fractal. It's the fractal of life. Unless you're in Ghana in 1966. And then you're kind of fucked. Because America's a new world order. And nothing will stop it. Except for a super chat from Scott Cook Jr. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Hey, buddy. Do you think esoteric Christianity is actually just astro-theology? Oh, God, love this guy. Or if Christ was actually a living man, especially with the symbolism of priest class? Do I think Christianity is actually astro-theology? Absolutely. Guys, if you look at the way is the original Christianity. It's an okay, it's not really Christianity. It's astro-theology. there's a belief in the way. The way is actually another word for wheel. It's a turning of the wheel. It's the, and that wheel is actually the turning of the seasons. It's putting you into a natural balance with the oscillations of the land, of the soil. And when you oscillate with the soil, guess what? That soil is giving you, the sun is giving you an oscillation of truth every day. The moon is giving you an oscillation 13 times a year. It's setting you on that pattern. And if you vibrate with that pattern, you're going to automatically be in a higher state of truth. It's literally why when you wake up and the sun's out, you can see clearly. Do you see what I mean? One of you had to go, dude, that makes sense. It's literally just like that. Because you're oscillating with the sun, you're automatically oscillating with truth. And because you're oscillating with truth, you're going to see everything. You're just going to see things a lot clearer. This is all, none of this requires a book. None of this. I'm telling you guys, it's completely counterintuitive that God would set up this amazing fractal and do all this shit, all this wonderful stuff. Sorry. I don't mean that. I freaking love this place. But it's insane to think that he would set all this up and then forget. Oh, forgot to put a manual in the glove box. Oh, damn, I forgot. And I can't change it because even though I'm omniscient and all powerful, I'm not able to change reality. So I'm going to have to inject the manual somehow. I'm going to have to see. I think I'll start with Coptic. And then we'll switch over to Greek. That'll confuse fuckers. And then we'll put it in Latin for a while. And then I'll stretch it out into 3,000 books, which will get condensed to 66. Then I'll translate it again. And then we'll finally get over to King James. And then everything will be okay. As long as everyone reads the book. But boss, what about people who didn't read the book? Well, they're fucked, okay? Look, this is all I got. This is not how it works, guys. If God wanted you to have a manual. Okay, here's how it works. If God wanted you to have a manual, if you're a guy, the second you start jacking off, a voice would come into your head going, you've accessed the main owner's manual for life. Please click on your penis to open the table of contents. And you'd be like, well, what the fuck was that? Like, where did that sound come from? He would have the rules where everyone had them and they were all in your head. It didn't require a third party. If it was really that important to him that he gives you a sacred relic that has not been quenched by the dirtiness of man, he would not put it in a book. He'd write it in the fucking stars. You look up and there'd be a star. James, stop freaking playing with yourself, dude. Go do something with your life. It'd be something like that. Think about it. Think about when you go play a game, a soccer game when you're a kid, and the coach puts you in. It's your game. He's not going to fuck that up by running out in the field. You go, hey, here's the playbook. You carry this around with you. That would disrespect your chance of the game. It would disrespect the entire fractal of the field. All the rules that he set up would be out the window now because now he's interfering with it. And the entire point of this is for him not to interfere. The entire point of this is for you to be born with no tools. No tools. Maybe some ancestral stuff. And to learn it yourself each time. No hints. No cheats. No cheat codes. No secret book. Do the best you can. And you're never going to go to bed knowing that you have full gnosis. You'll never do it. Not if you're good at it. Not if you're good at this game. If you lie to yourself, you're going to think, oh, I figured it out. I got it all figured out. Yeah, we just have to hang some witches and everything will be fine. We just have to bloodlet some kids and our crops will be fine. That's what you get into instead. Get lost in that shit. We don't know what's going on. That's the beauty of it. So it makes you try harder, hopefully. So it makes us all try harder. Unless you're in Chile. Sorry, Chile. 1964 through 73. America was occupying you. I don't think we're going to be able to get through them all. Guys, that's page 3 of 5. That's page 3 of 5. America doesn't mess around. It's not even America. America's Quetzalcoatl. It's that serpent underneath, the flying serpent underneath it all. What we think is America isn't even America. That history was erased with Christopher Columbus. Did I answer your question, Scott? You had actually another part. Astro-theology is the way. And upon this rock, I will build my church. I know we think that that's Peter, and that fucker was lying. Because upon this rock is Petra. It is the city of Petra. And if you go look there, you're going to find the cave of Moses, the mountain of Moses, the valley of Moses. You're going to find Mount Herod. You're going to find Mount Sinai. Mount Herod and Sinai are on the same mountain, by the way. It's basically Sinai is lower on the east. Herod's higher on the west. Could be the other way around, east-west, but Herod's higher. That one's lower. Petra. And that's why I think the source of all this is astro-theology. It's the way. It's an early Christian way. If Christ was actually a living man, especially with the symbolism of priest class. So my version of Christianity, I am convinced that blood, I don't want to offend anybody, guys. I freaking love that we have our archetypes that we tap into, that we have our religion. I will always support you in doing that. Just telling you what I think here. I think when you have a divine bloodline, when you're preaching the idea that Jesus is the Son of God, you end up creating a narcissistic funnel where one bloodline is considered more elite than the others. That sounds to me like something St. Peter would do. That sounds to me like something an inverted Catholic would do, was create a royalty, but a divine royalty bloodline. So personally, I reject the idea that God said, all you guys that were my people are now lesser than my people. You're sort of my bastard children now, because here's my real child, and it's Jesus, and he's the Son of God. Therefore, all of you are kind of pushed down a little bit. No offense, though. I still love you. You're just not my real kid. I don't think God would ever do that to any of you. I think God loves you way too much to do that. And so because of that, I cannot accept that Jesus was born as the only begotten Son of God. I also do not think that it makes any sense at all that to end ritual sacrifice, we would have another ritual sacrifice and then worship that. That's the exact opposite of ending sacrifice. So the entire blood, drinking of the blood and the eating of the body, this is my body. Do this in remembrance of me. This is my blood. Drink this in remembrance of me. That's a blood cult, guys. No offense, but it's a blood cult. And James don't play blood cults. James don't play royalty. If you can embrace Jesus with me without those two things, we have the same belief. And when I bring up the name Krishna, and I'm not lowering Jesus at all, I'm actually showing just how possible it is. We have other stories of people that had a strong enough egoic shield, that were tapped in enough to wisdom, that they were walking Christ. The word Christ is not a name. If you look back, the word Christ is a title. It makes no sense that one person would have that name as their, instead of a title, when it was a title for so long. Someone was a Christ, just like someone was a Messiah. If I've offended anyone right now, I just want to just say I'm sorry. Not really my goal. I know I've already said that, but belief is so important to me. And the last thing I would ever do is walk into a dojo and see someone who's working with nunchucks when I've got a samurai sword and say, your nunchucks suck. That's a dumb weapon. And I don't mean weapon that way, but you know what I mean? A dojo, you're kind of working on something. A quarterstaff is just as cool, man, as nunchucks. So is a sword. They're all beautiful instruments that we can use to navigate our world. And so I'm not here to say, it's actually, I'm anti there could be only one. That's my beef with Lord technology, is if you look in the Old Testament, there were 35 separate gods competing for King of the Mountain. They were competing for the one on top. By the way, Greece just fell, as we're talking, 1967. Fuck Greece. That's what NWO said. All these old school Lord technologies were competing for the throne. There was literally a quickening, freaking quickening, just like in Highlander, man. You've got all these different gods trying to get the same thing. You've also got Ashera. I think we need to look at Ashera. Ashera is this female, the female spirit of the grove. Some even say the consort of Yahweh. People get offended when I say that, but I'm still. If you go back into Canaanite religion, Ashera was the consort of Yahweh. Yahweh came from the Canaanites. And by the way, Yahweh isn't a name. Yahweh is an oscillation technology. If you look at the Sephiroth, you're going to see that the 10 different emanations of the Sephiroth are all 10 different ways to say the word Yahweh. In my newest book, which anyone who's buying my old book or super chatting me or joining me on Patreon is helping me write, anyone who's helping me write that book is going to soon see that Yahweh is an oscillation form of art. And Kwan, the star of my new book, is learning how to perfect her Yahweh. She's in the dojo constantly going, Yahweh, 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 Yahweh. And she's trying to emanate, to awaken this oscillation technology inside of her. And that's, if you go back to the origins of Yahweh, you'll find that's what it was, guys. That's what it was. It was us using our sacred breath. We could create through magic, through oscillations. You would see this magic if you were to say Yahweh underwater. You guys have seen this, right? Somoluminescence, where the sound is so powerful in water, it actually forms light. It actually makes freaking light show up. That's what Yahweh is. It's the magic utterance, but it's not through speech. Some people are like, why you always got to go on about this? But it's really important, because if you're thinking that it's going to be about speech, you're now putting the magic in the book instead of in your vocal cords. When you understand that it's in your vocal cords, you see that this requires no language to work. This is about oscillation. This is about resonance, right? This is about tuning into a certain sound and being able to resonate that. And that resonance creates a magic in the world. You know, Tesla could bring down a building or a bridge with resonance. We can do that now too. It's the same kind of magic. But don't let anyone tell you it's about the written word. Because once you're getting in the written word, now you're stuck in someone's language. And that language is, oh God, that's not at all where the magic is. Magic is the belief you have behind your words, guys. You could be making up your own words all day long and be just as magical. You can have better luck if someone else recognizes those words, right? You're definitely going to be better off by that. But that's not the requirement. That's not what has to be there. Hoping I can find this video for you guys. Come on, there it is. There it is. I hope I'm allowed to play this. Yahweh is polyphonic
Hello, I am Anna
singing.
Maria, and I'm an overture singer. I'm going to tell you something about polyphonic singing today. Overture singing is a voice technique where
Tell me you heard that. Tell me you guys heard that. Tell me you heard that. Polyphonic singing. Can you see what I mean by that's Yahweh? That's these are going to be sort of secrets that have been handed down for how to generate the right oscillation. Costa Rica just fell, by the way. During my birth year, 1970, 1971, we're like, fuck Costa Rica. We're the New World Order. Got to jump in there. This polyphonic magic that none of us know. Why? Because they're telling us shit like Christopher Columbus discovered America. They're telling us this stuff because they're creating amnesia. You're damn right, Tibet. It's one of the few places, Freeman, where that stuff's still open, right? Where it's still there. And there's stories there where like, no, this guy used to raise rocks with this. And no one's joking. No one's like, no, I mean, really, like Frank came last Tuesday and moved that megalith 4 feet to the right. This is not crazy talk. It just seems crazy because we're living in a crazy world. It just seems that way. That's what happens when you wake up in dissonance. You're surrounded by terms like racism. You're surrounded by terms like check your ego, brah. Surrounded in terms by trust the fucking plan. Meanwhile, all this magic's just waiting. All this magic is just right there going, stay. Try to say Yahweh. Like all day. Practice saying Yahweh. 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 I feel like it's really awful compared to what you just saw her do. But you get it. There's a magic of that resonance. It's so powerful. And we've forgotten it. So powerful. No, I'm not fucking with you, Scott. If you're talking to me. I wouldn't fuck with you guys. I've learned that being sarcastic is hurting me. I still do it, by the way. It slips out. But when you were sarcastic with someone else, what you're really doing is telling your crew, all your cells, all your body, that, hey, I'm not always going to say what I mean. Sometimes I'm going to say exactly the opposite. You guys are just going to have to figure it out based on who I'm talking to and what I'm going on. I've really learned to really try and not be sarcastic ever. In fact, isn't it interesting that sarcasm doesn't really translate over Twitter? You guys have noticed that. It doesn't translate over social media as well. I think there's a really strong lesson there. Okay, gotcha, Scott. Sorry, I didn't mean that make it about me either, by the way. I'm gonna put something on this fire. It looks good, but it's about to yeah, you guys talks amongst yourselves for a second. I'm gonna do this. But before I do that, Celestial Peace, $4.99. Thank you for the super chat. Thank you. Seriously. Campfire magic. You're damn right. Speaking of campfire, I'm going to take that and put it on the fire. So here we go. I don't know if this log's going to fit in here, by the way. I might have to go out and get some more logs. Guys, I'm going to get some water. Pardon me. I hate to do that, but I'm thirsty. And sometimes one man's got to drink some water. You know? So I'm all the way over here, and none of you guys can see me. I don't even know if you can hear me. But I'm pouring water. All right. Thanks for hanging. Seriously, thanks a lot, guys. It's fun. We got 56 seconds before another country falls. Make sure, quick look here. Selfless prana, I told you that. Talked about Stockholm Syndrome and Tulsi. Yeah, I wish I could read my own handwriting. Why you're here if we were winning? Yeah, I told you guys that Tulsi could win on day one. Tulsi could win on day one. If people are telling you, no, she has to infiltrate first and dig in and develop a political career first, that person's lying. It doesn't work that way. She could go in on day one, drop a fucking truth bomb like napalm, and walk out. and she'd win. She'd have any career she wanted. All of us would beg to help her in any way we could find a new job. She could walk in and say, guys, we just bombed Bolivia. She could be showing them this list. She could be saying, until we find out, until we punish who's responsible for 9/11 in this country, I can't vote for one more rule. I can't vote for one more thing. I just can't, in good conscience, do anything to keep this government going until we can talk about 9/11. Because it's our job to protect this country. And we're not protecting it in Saudi Arabia. We're not protecting it in Iraq. We're not protecting it in Afghanistan. Don't let anybody sell you short telling you the answer is outside of our country. The answer is in DC. And it's the same puppets that are always there, guys. You're not going to get in there. You're not going to get in unless you're part of the club. Do you think that a professional wrestling match would let a real-life Greco-Roman Olympic wrestler into the ring? I don't. It's not how it works there. So why are we expecting Washington to be magically different? We will know we're winning when Donald Trump says one of these things. Just one of these things. If we hear anything close to this, we will know that we're winning. And as long as we don't hear anything close to this, I'm telling you guys, we know that we're not winning. So what would winning sound like? Be the president again. We don't need a federal income tax. DC can survive off the printing of currency. That would be fucking winning. I don't even need you to pass a rule. I just need one person in DC just to say that. Just to say that. That would be winning. Next. The Patriot Act has to go. I am vetoing every bill they send me until NDAA is gone. That's what winning sounds like. Two parties is a really bad idea. The public is getting raped by this setup. Oh, that would be so much winning. That would be so much winning. I believe in states' rights. Each state should be a living experiment in government. Man, that would be so much winning. 9/11 was an inside job. I need the public support to clean this up. So much winning. He's a little bold, but sometimes you have to be bold, right? The Bush family was behind the assassination of Kennedy. They are domestic terrorists, and I will not rest until this is resolved. Boom, that would be so much winning. If we do not decentralize this government, all of this will happen again when I'm gone. That would be so much winning. Ask a Trump supporter, what's the plan after he leaves office? What magical thing is happening to prevent this from happening again? Government is the child of the people. We've had it backwards for some time now. It's enough. That would be winning. Just resetting the paradigm for what it's supposed to be. And finally, due to the corruption in the FBI and the CIA, we have no choice but to close them down. These organizations have failed us completely in every way imaginable. 1,000 pieces. 1,000 pieces. That would be winning, my friends. Do I need to tell you what losing sounds like? Do we even need to go over that? Or do you think it might sound something like, we have to look at Saudi Arabia, right? Or Iran is 6 months away from a nuclear bomb. You know, Trump just 3 weeks ago called the leader of Iran an anti-Semitic madman. Remember that map of Greater Israel I showed you? That's from Balfour's time. Balfour Declaration. This shit's older than the hills. It's in prophecy. Not looking through a black obsidian. All I'm doing is setting an alarm to go off every 4 minutes, and every time I'm just listing off another country that we bombed or invaded. There's no seeing going on here. There's no oracle. Just telling you what we're doing. Same thing General Wesley Clark told you. Same thing Lord Balfour and Rothschild told you. America's a new world order, guys. And winning would look like winning. It would feel like winning. It would sound like winning. And we can win. But the solution is never going to come from DC. And that's not me being negative. It's like asking, it's kind of gross, I can't use that one. You're not going to find a farmer, good, down home, you know, you guys get it. You're not going to find good in DC. You're not going to find a real wrestler among a bunch of fake ones. If you were, we wouldn't have two parties. If you were, we weren't going to hear all this shit that we're hearing instead. Instead, we get QAnon. If you don't know, the CEO of QAnon is Steve Bannon. Embedded underneath QAnon are networks. OAN is a network listed and started by our government. It's interesting because it's even got the words OAN, Anon, in it. People like Joe M., Jack Posobiec, working for this movement. Jack is actually a paid enemy, just like a wrestler would be. Well, you're the bad guy. Then there are chemical assets. These are assets that aren't getting paid, but they're chemically benefiting in some way. Lionel Media's one. Jordan Sather's one. Amazing Polly's one. Martin Geddes is one. These are people that are chemically benefiting from the charade and will do anything they can to defend the vision. Then you have stockholders. You've got Trump, you've got Breitbart, you've got Zionism, and you've got Greater Israel. You have the elite. These are stockholders in the lie, stockholders in the same narrative. Sorry to interrupt, but Bolivia's gone. Goodbye. Australia, better get your walking shoes on. You're next. Then you have consumers. You have people feeding off the same narrative. You've got your truthers, which are more like belief movement versus truth movement. Yes, I'm using belief in a different way there. Q fans, Republicans, and toilet wine salesmen. Julian Drum is a toilet wine salesman. He's constantly posting about how much fucking winning it is and how bright the sun is burning from all the winning. And they love that. People love toilet wine. Why? Because they're in prison. And if someone's found a way to sneak peaches and stick it in their toilet and let it ferment, they'll fucking buy it. Why? Because we have zero egoic shields. We're told if we show respect for ourselves, we're going to get hit hard out in public. We only get rewarded when we're masochistic. It's that kind of stuff. When you go into DC, you've already been vetted. You know, Tulsi could go in there and say, hey, I pledged an oath to the Constitution before the Gulf War, and here I am fulfilling it. 9/11 was an inside job, and she'd be a lighthouse. She'd turn into an instant lighthouse. But she won't, because she can't. Because if she could, she wouldn't be there. Do you understand? She wouldn't be there. There's a reason why Ron Jeremy ends up in pornos, and it's not just because his Johnson's giant. The people who are willing to go to pornos are going to be comfortable doing that all day long in front of a camera. If you want to go meet a nice virgin down-home farm girl on a pornographic set, good luck. But the rest of us are watching you make really poor decisions and really hoping that you'll think highly of yourself, because that's not working, man. That's not working at all. How much time do we got? Australia. It's 1 minute. So guys, I am out of content for you. I could finish the rest of this list, but it's 5 pages. We're only halfway through page 3. I'm talking about the list of countries. It's a long list. Angola, Zaire, Portugal, Jamaica, Seychelles, I didn't even know where that is. Chad, Grenada, 1983, South Yemen, Suriname, Fiji, Libya, Nicaragua, Panama, Bulgaria, Albania, Iraq 91, Afghanistan, Somalia, Yugoslavia, Ecuador, Afghanistan, Venezuela, Iraq, Haiti, Somalia, Honduras, Libya again, Syria again, Ukraine again. America is the New World Order. And the second you know that is the second you stop giving in your belief. And the more of you pull your belief from there, the harder it's going to be for them to stay alive. They're going to drown. They don't want your money. They want your belief. And I'm so blessed that you guys spent this night with me hanging out. Pick up one of my books. Join us on Patreon. Hope you guys liked the show. Thanks, Beth. Appreciate it. I know you did, because you guys are still giving me your attention. And that's gold, man. That's pranic gold. So thank you muchly. See you guys on the movie set. Those of you who are helping, don't forget next Friday we're having our first meetup. It'll be pretty cool. David Crockett's, come on, how cool is that? That on Black Friday, I am meeting some folks at Davy Crockett's birthplace, and we're going to film a black powder shoot instead of Black Friday. That's serious alchemy. Speaking of alchemy, you guys need to get your silver. I need everyone to get some silver. Find some silver. All right? Because when you have a tangible item, it stores magic in it. And you're going to charge that silver. Every time we talk, you're going to think about it, which means every time you seal that silver, you're going to think about sovereignty again. And it's going to make you a badass. Your egoic field is going to grow even stronger. Thank you. Thank you, Sword Dances. Love you too, Freeman. I really appreciate you guys. I'm going to sign off now. Yeah. Thank you. Bye.